Chapter 26-21. Even Yang Jian, Neza, and the others, who had rich combat experience, were facing an extraordinary opponent that they had never seen before. The Kuin's body was too big, so big that even if all the people participating in the battle combined their divine senses, they still wouldn't be able to cover the entire Kuin's body. In other words, every expert participating in the battle couldn't see the opponent's true appearance because everyone could only see a small part of it, even if they tried their best. Even if all the participating experts knew that they were standing on the body of that terrifying giant Kuin, who could tell them apart? This was clearly a normal piece of land. There were mountains, rivers, oceans, mineral deposits, spirit veins, and everything that a normal piece of land should have. Even if they fought to the death here, the land under their feet would not easily move. It was just pure land. If Yang Chun hadn't known about the Kuin in advance, even someone as strong as Ancestor Lu wouldn't have been able to discover that they were on the back of a Kuin. Of course, Yang Chen's source of information was absolutely reliable. It wasn't too far-fetched for the experts of the old heavenly court to know this little secret. But under this premise, knowing that there must be a Kuin here, Ancestor Lu still spent a few decades to personally confirm that there was indeed a Kuin here. Before this giant Kuin had lived here for countless years. Even on its back, there were countless natives and cultivators. Even if it lived normally for hundreds of generations, no one would be able to detect it. The plan was one thing, but when it was actually implemented, when every participating expert rushed to the site, they discovered that it was a completely different matter. Even the most arrogant cultivator would never have thought that one day they would treat the land under their feet as an enemy. It was a completely indescribable feeling, and it was very likely that their attacks wouldn't even be able to penetrate the outer shell of the Kuin. When the Kuin was usually still, it was almost completely lifeless. Divine senses couldn't detect it, let alone the naked eye. Even the best experts with good eyesight couldn't see everything in a single glance. Everyone could only see the land, and not even a trace of the enemy could be found. When he thought about how he, a dignified top-notch expert of the immortal world, was only facing an insignificant small part of the Kuin's body, even the most powerful expert would feel insignificant. "I think I'll improve after this battle," Neza said before he parted ways with Yang Jian. After understanding his own insignificance, it was indeed an opportunity for him to improve himself. Neza had been waiting for this battle for many years. "Same to you." Yang Jian also looked into the distance. When he thought about the Kuin's body as far as his eyes could see, he couldn't help but feel proud. In fact, it wasn't just Yang Jian, Neza, Ancestor Lu, the three ancestors of the Dragon Clan, and the other participating experts were excited. They could all see the signs of a breakthrough. The only prerequisite was that they could defeat this giant Kuin that they couldn't fully understand. Yang Chen knew that this great Kuin was because of the memories of his previous life. Before he was reborn, this great Kuin had been reborn into a great Peng because of a great opportunity, causing the entire immortal world to shake. Because of this, countless cultivators were implicated. Not long after the Kuin transformed into a Kuin, the incident with Old Demon E happened. Most of the 10,000 Tribulation True Immortals were chasing after the Kuin, so Old Demon E, who had only ascended for a few thousand years, could dominate the immortal world. In the end, the Heavenly Court had to send a team of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals to eliminate him. It could be said that the reason why Old Demon E could wreak havoc in the immortal world was because the Kuin had attracted the attention of almost all the experts. Yang Chen only knew that this was the connection, but he didn't know if there were other implications. But knowing this was enough. At least, Ancestor Lu found the Kuin thousands of years in advance and started to design it. The distribution was so wide that it was not easy for every cultivator to find their exact location, even if they had practiced it many times. After all, it took 400 years from the beginning of the design to the completion of the practice. During these 400 years, the landscape of the mountains and rivers had more or less changed, and the formation should have been slightly adjusted. Thus, the fine-tuning on the spot took another 50 years before the formation could be considered to be truly completed. Now, They were waiting for the selected, auspicious day to arrive, and at a specific time, everyone would start at the same time. It was not that they didn't want to have a unified command, but because the scope was too large, it would take many years for the order to be sent to the other side. So how could they talk about unified command? They could only agree on the time and start at the same time. Every participating cultivator was excited and eager, but not a single one of them was afraid or cowardly. Such a big scene was comparable to the change of dynasties in the heavenly court. It was really a great fortune for everyone to be able to catch up. If they missed it, they would regret it for the rest of their lives. The day before the start, all the cultivators were conserving their energy and adjusting themselves to the best state. There was a burning stick of incense beside everyone, which was a magic weapon that had been refined long ago. When the incense burned out, it would be the time to start. Yangchun and Gong Sunling were also ready. They wanted to collect the Kuan into the geographical map of mountains and rivers as soon as everyone started the formation. This process sounded fast, and it was not slow in imagination, but it would take at least a few months to do it. During this period, there couldn't be too big of a change, otherwise everything would be for naught. In order to prevent accidents, Ancestor Lu arranged at least thousands of restraining formations on the periphery, which were connected to the formation eyes on the periphery. Once there was any damage on the outside, it would affect the entire formation and keep those with bad intentions outside. In addition, the tens of millions of tribulation-perfected immortals secretly sent by the mysterious heaven sect were scattered around the Koan. At the critical moment, they were another barrier. Anyone who dared to break into the formation would be killed without exception. However, the scope was too large, and thousands of experts couldn't completely block it. They could only do their best and leave it to fate. Not only was Yangchun not completely confident, but even Ancestor Lu and the others were the same. This was the first time everyone had encountered such an uncontrollable situation. They believed that even if the mysterious heaven sect went all out, it wouldn't be much better than now. All everyone could do was try their best. There was only one small section of the incense left, and in another hour, it would be time to start. All the experts began to make their final preparations. All kinds of pills and magic treasures were placed in the most convenient places, waiting for the time to come. Chapter 26-22. Shua. The moment the incense burned out, all the masters who were staring at the incense all activated the formation eyes that they were in charge of. The formation that was spread out for thousands of miles was instantly activated, and the entire area seemed to pause for a moment. Countless faint lights flickered and then disappeared without a trace. All the cultivators and natives within the range of the formation were surprised to find that their bodies seemed to suddenly be surrounded by an incomparably viscous thing, firmly trapping their bodies. No matter how they struggled, it was as if they were trapped in a quagmire. At most, they could only slowly move but could not move like normal. Not only the natives and cultivators, but the entire area from the sky to the abyss was completely enveloped. Tens of thousands of miles underground was covered, and the entire space seemed to have slowed down in an instant. Boom! A heaven-shattering and earth-shattering movement began to appear, but this miraculous scene, which was like the end of the world, also became slow motion, and the entire earth began to slowly tremble. What kind of miraculous scene was this? Even though they knew that this was the movement of the giant Kuan within the formation, everyone was still stunned by this earth-shattering scene. It was just a living creature. How could it cause such a terrifying impact? Ordinary natural disasters would at most last for a short period of time, but in front of everyone's eyes, this apocalyptic scene lasted for a whole day and night, becoming more and more intense, without the slightest sign of slowing down. Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, and the three old ancestors of the Dragon Clan, who were controlling the main formation eyes, did their best to balance the area they were in charge of. And after struggling for a whole day, they finally completely suppressed the abnormal movements of the giant Kuan in various areas. The giant Kuan was temporarily suppressed by the formation, unable to move much, but the six top masters also had a rare sheen of sweat on their bodies. Yangchun, Aling, do it. Only at this moment, Ancestor Lu ordered Yang Chun and Gong Sunling. Yang Chun and Gong Sunling had been waiting for a long time, and when they heard Ancestor Lu's order, they immediately unfolded the Mountain River geographical map, and like a whale began to swallow the giant Kuan underground. Unfortunately, the size of the big Kuan was too big, and it was a complete body. No matter how powerful the Mountain River geographical map was, it could only be collected bit by bit. To outsiders, the rate of absorption seemed to be very slow, but in every breath, the geographical map of the mountains and rivers could swallow the body of the 5-kilometer-long giant Kuan. The problem was that the Great Leviathan's body was too big. Even if it could travel 10 miles in a single breath, it wouldn't even reach a speed of 1,000,000 miles in a straight line in a day. Based on this speed, it would take about half a year to collect all of the Kuan within a radius of 10 million miles. The array formation designed by Ancestor Lu and the others could last for half a year to suppress the Great Peng. If there were no other accidents, then Yang Chun and Gong Sunling could safely collect it. And with the progress of the collection, the power of the Mountain River geographical map would only become greater and greater, and the speed would also become faster and faster. Maybe it would take less than half a year to complete. The giant Kuan wasn't located in the Heavenly Court's capital city, where most cultivators were gathered. Instead, it was located in an extremely remote area. Ancestor Lu and Yang Chun took everyone to rush here, and it took them tens of years to get here. This was a typical remote and desolate area, with high mountains and dense forests. Except for a small number of natives and some small cultivators, very few cultivators would be willing to come here. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any accidents. Everyone just had to stay here peacefully for half a year, and then they could enter the Mountain River geographical map to fight with the Great Leviathan. Even Yang Chun thought so. Even after arriving at the place, Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, and the 3 ancestors of the Dragon Clan personally walked around and patrolled the area, but they didn't find any cultivators that could threaten everyone. One had to know that there were basically not many cultivators that could play tricks under the eyes of the 6 of them. The few measures that were arranged to prevent accidents were really just a precaution. However, accidents still happened. And it didn't happen at the beginning of the array formation, but when everyone was completely unable to stop halfway. It was not the outside that changed, but the inside of the people who participated. Ancestor Lu and Chunyang Palace were very stable, and the Dragon Clan was also a piece of iron. The problem was the subordinates of Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin. Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin had also completely turned to Yang Chun and Chunyang Palace this time, and for this reason, they did not hesitate to bring their trusted experts to participate. They were very righteous and had no crooked thoughts. Zhou Tianjun was Yang Chen's father-in-law and naturally stood on Yang Chen's side. Marshal Lin also knew about Lin Jingyuan's experience, and after weighing the pros and cons, he joined this camp. There was no problem with the people above, but it didn't mean that their trusted subordinates were completely fine. Among the experts brought by the 2 of them, almost a dozen of them were disloyal. Just when everyone was trying their best to suppress the Great Leviathan, they suddenly launched an attack. At any time, internal problems were the most troublesome, and the greatest harm was also brought about. This time was no exception. More than 20 experts suddenly destroyed the formation eye, instantly causing a huge gap to appear in the formation that was suppressing the Great Leviathan. The Great Leviathan had room to struggle, and it began to struggle wildly. The gap brought about the danger of the entire formation collapsing, and everyone's expression suddenly changed. Fortunately, the 6 experts led by Ancestor Lu didn't seem to be affected at all, and were still as calm as ever. I'm very disappointed. The one who spoke was Zhou Tianjun. He was the leader, and his subordinates controlled the formation eye. Zhou Tianjun's position was also a higher-level formation eye. Zhou Tianjun didn't seem surprised that his subordinates had betrayed him. Instead, there was a faint hint of regret in his tone. I've always treated you well, and I didn't expect you to stab me in the back at a critical moment. Zhou Tianjun's voice reached the ears of all his subordinates through the formation eye, including the dozen traitors. In a small, isolated area, the formation eyes could still communicate with each other. This was to ensure the integrity and tacit understanding of the formation. "We've never been loyal to you." The expert who led the rebellion now showed that his cultivation was at least a small realm higher than what he usually showed to everyone. He also spoke to Zhou Tianjun through the formation eye. "We're just using your identity to hide." The Zhao family? Zhou Tianjun immediately understood their identities. However, he still asked, unwilling to give up. "That's right," the other replied with a smile. "Unfortunately, you found out too late." The same scene played out between Marshal Lin and his dozen or so traitors. But Marshal Lin was also filled with disbelief. The Zhao family had infiltrated the Heavenly Court's capital without a sound, and they were even hiding around the important figures like them. How extravagant. Chapter 26-23. A formation with a radius of tens of thousands of miles, just to trap a giant koan, was really like pulling one hair and affecting the whole body. The sudden appearance of two gaps in two directions meant that there were two fatal flaws in the formation. Everyone could imagine just how terrifying a giant koan with a shell of tens of millions of miles in circumference was. Needless to say, the giant koan itself had a strong cultivation. Even if this was not taken into account, its size alone was enough to destroy the world. In the Immortal realm, many grand demons did not have strong cultivation, but relied on their size and instincts to deal with the siege of many infinite tribulation true immortals with ease. This was their innate strength. The giant koan, who was suppressed by the formation and could not move, suddenly found that there were two gaps in the formation that bound it. If it did not struggle hard, when would it be able to? With this struggle, the whole earth began to turn upside down, and the apocalyptic scene began. The area, which had been peaceful for a few months, once again fell into hell. The small Puryang palace. How can we dare to covet such a great opportunity? A traitorous expert said directly, "If you surrender to the Zhao family today, then forget it. Otherwise, you will all die without a corpse." For some reason, Yang Chun and Ancestor LV did not let Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin tell their subordinates what they were going to deal with at the beginning. However, this did not prevent them from discovering that it was a huge and powerful grand demon when they arrived at the scene. How dare a small Chunyang palace covet such a great opportunity? Were they really not afraid of not being able to hold on? The hidden experts of the Zhao family had secretly sent out the news, and the Zhao family also sent a large number of experts to secretly follow behind the experts of Chunyang Palace. They hung far away and hid at a safe distance. Even if Ancestor LV and the others investigated, they did not show up. When the formation was opened, everyone performed the control of the formation eyes normally. But when the experts of the Zhao family arrived, the operation of the formation reached the most critical moment and suddenly launched. Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin were both experts, and the traitorous subordinates knew this. However, after all, their status was too low, and it was not enough to know the existence of Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, and the Dragon Race. They only thought that this was the support of Puryang Palace by Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin. The main force must be them. This difference in perception was mainly due to the formation designed by Patriarch Lu and the others. Everyone was responsible for everything in detail, but they didn't know what the others were doing, nor did they know where they were in the formation and the key points. They only knew that they were under the command of Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin. In their eyes, this was proof that Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin were in control. This small difference in perception also led to some mistakes in decision-making. These guys who controlled the formation thought that their betrayal would bring about serious consequences. Even though it seemed to be the case, they still underestimated the terror of the 6 main formation eyes. Ancestor Lu had already considered this situation when he designed it. Of course, at that time, he did not consider the existence of spies, but made preparations for safety. He wanted to prevent a few or even dozens or more of the surrounding formation eyes from being destroyed because of the big Kuan struggle, which would affect the overall effect of the formation. However, because the area of the formation was too large, It would take almost half a day for the main formation to know about the gap and then uniformly adjust it. This also led to the current big battle formation seemed to have no way to deal with it at all, which let the Zhao family's undercover agents see hope. At the same time, the experts of the Zhao family who had sneaked in from the periphery were also discovered by the experts who had been waiting for a long time. These elite experts immediately joined the battle and began to snipe outside the range of the formation. The big Kuan struggled more fiercely. It was more sensitive than the experts of the Zhao family. It knew that this might be its only chance to escape, so it burst out 200% of its strength to struggle. In the eyes of everyone, it seemed to be supporting the failure of the Chunyang Palace's operation. For the Zhao family, the failure of the Chunyang Palace was not terrible, as long as the big demon did not move. No one seemed to be worried about this. With the big demon's size, even if it wanted to leave, it would not be easy. Therefore, at this moment, what everyone had to do was to destroy the opportunity of the Chunyang Palace. It was best to capture all the experts of the Chunyang Palace in one fell swoop, and then the Zhao family could send more experts to repeat what the Chunyang Palace had done and capture the big demon in one fell swoop. The Zhao family sent a lot of people to the periphery, and it was a concentrated force. The experts sent by the Xintian sect who were patrolling the periphery were soon defeated and began to retreat one after another. These experts had been given to Yang, Chun, and Chunyang Palace by the Xintian sect. They were all loyal disciples of the Chunyang Palace. Yang Chun was reluctant to let them die. He gave them instructions in advance that if they could fight, they should fight. If they could not fight, they should run away. They must not play the hero and throw away their lives. However, in the eyes of the Zhao family, this retreat was a rout. In particular, when they did not retreat in other directions, but retreated into the formation that was turning the sky and earth upside down, it made the Zhao family think that they had panicked and did not choose where to go. The hope of success was in front of them. The experts who had avoided the eyes and ears of Ancestor loose swarmed up and rushed into the formation. The current scene of turning the sky and earth upside down was not big enough. Everyone was an expert, and they could still see that the formation was barely resisting. What they had to do was to completely destroy the formation and tear a bigger hole, so that the big demon's resistance would be greater, and these guys from the Chunyang Palace would be devoured by the formation. Everything was calculated, and everything was going according to their plan, but suddenly, the situation changed. Under the coordination of the main formation, controlled by Ancestor Liu and other experts, the peripheral formation eyes in several nearby directions began to disperse their power to suppress the chaos here. The design of the formation had a margin, and it was impossible to be just right, so the experts of the Zhao family who rushed and directly hit the strongest iron plate. When the formation began to suppress and restrain the big Kuan again, the experts of the Zhao family and the rebels who rushed in were dumbfounded. If even such a terrifying big Kuan could be suppressed by the formation, they would simply be sending themselves to their deaths. Although the Zhao family had dispatched more than 5,000 experts at one time, within this range of tens of millions of miles, 5,000 people could not even see a shadow. The overbearing and peerless formation directly suppressed the rebels and the experts who rushed in later, suppressing them to the point that they could not move. The Zhao clan's miscalculation this time was entirely due to the fact that Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin's subordinates didn't know what was going on. As a result, more than 5,000 experts who rushed in didn't even have a chance to fight. Chapter 26-24. The huge formation showed its power again, completely suppressing the struggle of the giant Kuan. The gap in the formation was quickly repaired under the coordination of the main formation eye. The earth-shattering scene only lasted for 6 hours before everything calmed down again, as if nothing had happened before. If it were not for the landforms that had changed a lot, no one would believe that it was a doomsday scene just now. The Zhao family suffered a great loss this time. They lost more than 5,000 experts for no reason. Even the undercover agents hidden in Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin were exposed, but they got such a result. The guy in charge of the Zhao family almost spat out a mouthful of blood. However, The loss of 5,000 experts was not a big deal for the Zhao family. They knew that Chunyang Palace had sent out thousands of experts this time, and there were 3,000 to 4,000 patrolling in the periphery, so the total number of experts they brought out this time was far more than that number. In addition to destroying the plan of Chunyang Palace, the Zhao family also planned to subdue the giant Koan. How could they not have enough experts? Moreover, they only sent out some small fries at the beginning. Among the 5,000 experts, there were at most 2,000 in Fine Tribulation True Immortals, and the rest were just Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals. It was far from enough to hurt the Zhao family. Knowing that the formation of Chunyang Palace was powerful, they would be fools if they went in stupidly. The experts of the Zhao family were not fools, so they began to study the formation carefully. After all, the reason why Chunyang Palace could win was that the formation was powerful. As long as this formation was broken, they could get everything back. Whether it was subduing the giant Koan or trapping the experts of the Zhao family, it was all because of this formation. The formation was the focus of everyone's attack. Among the experts brought out by the Zhao family, there were also many experts in formation. When Chunyang Palace had just suppressed the situation, the Zhao family had already begun to observe and measure the formation on the periphery. The formation was so big that it covered a radius of thousands of miles. It was impossible to see the whole picture. The only thing the Zhao family could do was to find a flaw in the formation, attack it with all their strength, and destroy the integrity of the formation. As long as the array formation was destroyed, the Great Fae would retaliate. The scene of the Great Koan struggling not long ago was still fresh in everyone's mind, so they naturally understood this principle. There was no array formation that was completely flawless. It all depended on whether everyone had studied it deeply enough. Therefore, the real formation that trapped the Great Koan also had its flaws. After all, it had only been designed and arranged by Ancestor Lu and the others for hundreds of years. Moreover, there were thousands of people operating the formation. As long as one was human, it was inevitable that they would make mistakes. The Zhao clan's array formation experts were very lucky. It only took them less than 2 months to find the flaws of the two array formations. One was that the array formation itself was not strong enough, and the other was the problem of the cultivator controlling the array formation. Both of these flaws could affect the array formation. The master of the Zhao clan did not say anything and attacked for both sides. Seeing that the Chunyang Palace was about to be completed, it seemed that in a month's time, the great demon would probably be collected into the Mountain River geographical map. At that time, the Zhao family would completely lose the opportunity. For now, they could only take a risk. This time, the Zhao family sent out real experts. They were not those infinite tribulation true immortals that could be found easily. Instead, they were elites who were almost as good as Marshal Lin, the Lord of Heaven. Moreover, more than 2,000 of them were sent out at once. In addition, there were more than 3,000 ordinary tribulation true immortals, which added up to another 5,000 masters. The Zhao clan seemed to know that as long as Yang Chun took action, there would be a big scene. In particular, Yang Chun and the Chunyang Palace had prepared for this in the Chunyang Palace for hundreds of years in advance. After coming here, it had taken them 100 or 200 years to prepare for this operation. It was definitely a good thing that was worthy of using their trump card. Therefore, the elite experts that the Zhao clan brought out this time accounted for less than half of the Zhao clan's elites in the divine realm. It could be said that the Zhao clan attached absolute importance to Yang Chun. This time, the experts of the Zhao clan found the right direction and the right breakthrough point. Compared with the dozens of traders who messed around before, they were many times more efficient. Directly targeting the two flaws, they used their strongest power and attacked the fastest and most ruthlessly. The main goal of the formation designed by Ancestor Lu was to trap the giant Koan and suppress its resistance. In other aspects, especially in the aspect of protection, it could only be achieved in an ordinary way. It could not be compared with a professional protection formation at all. Under the concentrated attack of the Zhao clan's elite experts, the formation in the direction of their attack was immediately cut open. The expert in charge of controlling the formation, I did not even have a chance to resist. and the formation I was directly broken. As a last resort, they could only flee quickly. This was not cowardice, but Yang Chun had already told them to evacuate immediately in such a situation. Yang Chun would not let the Chunyang Palace and the cultivators who helped them pay the price with their lives for a giant koan. The way to evacuate was also very simple. As long as they used a simple magic formula, they could immediately enter the mountain river geographical map. In order to capture the giant koan, the mountain river geographical map had been stretched to its maximum limit, and these experts could enter at any time. One formation I was broken, and the experts of the Zhao clan did not have time to cheer. They immediately followed the established plan, still focusing on the two flaws, and then attacked the next formation I. War was about going all out in one go, and the battle was also about going all out. The Zhao clan was now using such a method. No matter who was in front and how strong the formation was, as long as the most elite experts took turns to attack, a hole was a hole. Under the Zhao clan's relentless assault, a series of outer true eyes were quickly breached. If there were only 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 true eyes, the formation would not have much trouble, and it would only take a few hours to recover. But the Zhao clan obviously did not intend to give the formation of Chunyang Palace a chance to recover. Along the way, they did not stop attacking. Before the first true, I was broken, and the remedial measures were taken. They had broken dozens of formation eyes. What followed was a chain reaction. A few days later, the number of formation eyes that the Zhao clan had broken had reached nearly 200. The erase eye that had been destroyed was lined up in a large area. Even if Patriarch Lu and the others wanted to completely repair it, it was already too late. They could only watch helplessly as a corner of the array formation completely collapsed. A small part of the Great Koan's body was already exposed outside the array formation. We miscalculated. At this point, Ancestor Lu could only sigh and send the news to Neza, Yang Jian, and the 3 Dragon Clan ancestors. They did not expect that the Zhao clan would send so many experts, which was unexpected. Of course, the culprits were the undercover experts of the Zhao clan. Without them, the Zhao clan would not have known about this operation. Chapter 26-25. It was inevitable that the Zhao family would break the array. It was only a matter of time. Although Ancestor Lu and others knew that failure was inevitable, they still tried their best to maintain the array. At this time, if they could hold on for a while, Yang Chun would have more time to collect the big koan. As long as most of the body of the big koan could be taken into the mountain river geographical map. Even if the big koan struggled, it would not be so easy to escape. Everyone's purpose this time was to collect the big koan into the mountain river geographical map and then subdue it. Everything else could be ignored. As for those arrogant fellows from the Zhao family, they dared to make such a big mess when Ancestor Lu, Neza, Yang Jian, and the 3 great ancestors of the Dragon Clan were presiding over the formation. Now that they were still presiding over the formation, they couldn't do anything to them. However, when the formation was no longer maintained, they would show them who the famous god of slaughter was. It was strange to say that the hole became bigger, but the struggle of the big koan almost did not appear at all. It was a very strange situation. But the more it was like this, the happier the masters of the Zhao family, especially the core master. This showed that the suppressed big demon already understood that he could not get rid of the array by resisting a few times. The more he did not move, the more it showed that he was accumulating strength, waiting for the final counterattack. Ancestor Lu and others were also facing a great enemy. The previous few times the big koan had repeatedly struggled, but this time the hole was bigger, but he did not move. It seemed that he was also a smart guy. Perhaps if they could not suppress the big koan this time, it would not be easy to find another opportunity in the future. If they did not want to have future troubles, they could only kill it, which would be a big loss. The Zhao family had already felt that hope was in front of them and accelerated the process of the attack. The morale of the group of elites was greatly boosted, as if they had already seen that the big demon would immediately escape with their help, and then be grateful to them. The inside of the mountain river geographical map that everyone did not see was another scene. Yang Chun and Gong Sunling had been working hard to collect the big koan, But the previous series of changes made the big Kuan struggle frantically, so that the original calculation of about half a year to collect the big Kuan now took longer. However, Yang Chun and Gong Sunling were lucky. The direction in which they began to collect happened to be the direction of the head of the big Kuan. A few months' time was enough to collect most of the Kuan's head and a small part of its body into the mountain river geographical map. Yang Chun was very clear about what happened in the array formation. Similarly, he quickly received news of Ancestor Lu's decision. The Zhao family's timing was too good, so much so that Ancestor Lu's hundreds of years of planning fell short at the last moment. It could be assumed that Ancestor Lu was currently enraged. It seemed that failure was inevitable, but Yang Chun still wanted to fight for it. There weren't many opportunities outside. Even LV Zhu, Yang Jian, Neza, and the three great ancestors of the dragon tribe couldn't do anything about it. Yang Chun couldn't help much either. He wanted to see if there were any opportunities from the inside. No matter how many methods were used to suppress and capture the Great Kuan, no matter how many experts were sent to suppress it, it was not as effective as the Great Kuan coming willingly. Yang Chen's mind was spinning frantically as he tried to recall the situation of this Kuan from his previous life. Because its size was 100 times larger than an ordinary Great Kuan, it was 100 times more difficult to grow than an ordinary Great Kuan. This was just like Yang Chen's practice of the Golden Body technique. Spiritual power of 10 attributes was definitely much more difficult than 1. What could attract the attention of the Great Kuan? What could make the Great Kuan voluntarily enter the mountain river geographical map? Yang Chun had no memory of this in his mind. However, it was an indisputable fact that this Great Kuan had always wanted to break through and transform into a great rock. He could only think of a way from this. Brother Kuan, I have a batch of heavenly essence elixirs condensed by the life essence of an innumerable tribulation true immortal. It should be of some benefit to your cultivation. I wonder if Brother Kuan would like to accept it? In the mountain river geographical map, Yang Chun began to tempt the Great Kuan. With this level of cultivation, the Great Kuan definitely had its own wisdom, so Yang Chun used this way of communication. He believed that the Great Kuan would definitely be able to hear and understand. This was in the mountain river geographical map. Yang Chen's voice could easily resound in any corner. This is your purpose. A thunderous voice sounded in the immortal realm of the mountain river geographical map. The Great Kuan finally opened his mouth and spoke. He hadn't made a single sound when he was here before. However, even if he spoke, his words were still full of resentment. No matter who it was, he had been quietly crawling here for tens of thousands of years, or even longer. Suddenly, a group of masters came to make him comfortable with the formation and put him into a cave residence magic treasure. Moreover, it was a very unwarranted act, so he would be so angry. That's not it, Yang Chun hurriedly replied. As long as the Great Kuan was willing to communicate, everything would be fine. I was wrong before. I always wanted to use Brother Kuan's body to settle down the disciples of my sect, but I offended Brother Kuan for no reason. I'm sorry. You also know that it was unwarranted? The Great Kuan's angry voice was like thunder, echoing countless times in the immortal realm of the mountain river geographical map. Yang Chun and the others knew that it was unwarranted, but they still attacked. How could the Great Kuan not be angry? There was no way to communicate before. Yang Chun appropriately expressed his apology and also expressed his previous helplessness. Only in this situation can we communicate normally, isn't it? What can you offer? The Great Kuan's loud voice was heard again. He began to ask Yang Chun about his bargaining chip. If it's just the primordial heaven elixir that you mentioned, then forget it. I can eat thousands of true immortals. The effect is definitely better than your elixir. I can provide you with a place to stay. Yang Chun suddenly said with inspiration, I can guarantee that Brother Kuan will be safe and sound here until you successfully transform into a great rock. What do you have to guarantee? This space magic treasure? The Great Kuan was very disdainful. He said to the sky, You are not even as good as a half-realm, and you want to protect me? Do you think I don't understand? Do you want to rely on me to open up a realm? The Great Kuan could open up a realm? It was the first time that Yang Chun heard about it. But now, looking at the huge size of the Great Kuan, Yang Chun was a little skeptical. Not to mention other things, just this size alone, as long as it could successfully stay in a space magic treasure, it could promote the rapid growth of the space magic treasure. Why was the Zhao family so proactive? Could it be because of this reason? In his previous life, Yang Chun did not know why the masters of the Heavenly Court went back to besiege the great rock that the Great Kuan had transformed into. But if it was related to the Zhao family and the half-realm of divinity, it seemed to be completely explainable. Chapter 26:26. He picked up a treasure. Yang Chen's heart was filled with surprise and joy at the moment. Who could have known that Big Kuan had such an ability? However, at the moment, he only knew that Big Kuan had this ability. The business that Yang Chun wanted to do had not yet been completed. The purpose of this large-scale operation was to subdue Big Kuan and build the core mountain gate on its back. The primary purpose was to subdue it. Now it seemed that subduing it was not very possible. Next time, Big Kuan would not give everyone a chance to set up a suppression array. If they did not succeed this time, they were afraid that it would be impossible again. Everything was because of the sudden attack of the Zhao family. Yang Chen was sure that those guys would not die easily. Being able to offend Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, and the 3 ancestors of the Dragon Clan, they would be lucky to have their bodies intact. But no matter how they killed those guys, they had to wait until after the event. The operation of Chunyang Palace would still fail. Yang Chun did not want such a result, so he took the initiative to communicate with Big Kuan. Originally, he didn't have any hope of success. After all, in his previous life, the Great Kuan had always been besieged and had never been able to communicate with a cultivator. This time, he didn't expect that he would actually succeed in communicating with the Great Kuan. As long as there was communication, there was hope for Yang Chun to reach an understanding with Big Kuan. In the past, Yang Chun took it for granted. Of course, Ancestor Lu and others had the same idea. After all, they had never heard of Big Kuan communicating with a cultivator since ancient times. In addition, Big Kuan's body was so big that even if they wanted to communicate, it would not be easy to achieve. That was, Yang Chun could control the world in the Mountain River geographical map, and most of Big Kuan's head and body were in the Mountain River geographical map, which allowed Yang Chen's meaning to be accurately conveyed to Big Kuan's mind. Otherwise, if one did not want to cause an earth-shattering movement, communicating with Big Kuan would be a joke. Even if there was a possibility of communication, perhaps only a master at the level of Ancestor Lu could talk to Big Kuan on an equal footing. If it was replaced by someone with a lower cultivation, they would probably be swallowed directly by Big Kuan and nothing would be left. Just now, Big Kuan casually said that swallowing thousands of masters was useless. It was definitely not a lie. Big Kuan was definitely qualified to say this. Moreover, Big Kuan was probably telling the truth. Thousands of masters were not enough to raise his cultivation to the point of transforming into Big Kuan, let alone Tianyuan pills. Tianyuan pills would at most work faster, but the overall effect would never exceed a large number of cultivators. Tianyuan pills. At this moment, Yang Chen also knew that he couldn't delay it for too long, so he directly asked the Great Leviathan, "What are the conditions?" Big Kuan Big Chen said, "You have breath." Sure enough, the Great Kuan wasn't polite at all and immediately stated his needs. "If you can find me a large piece of growing soil, I can forget about your previous rudeness." The Big Kuan wasn't a fool. He usually crawled here without saying a word. It wasn't because he didn't want to move, nor was it because he didn't want to talk. Instead, as long as he moved, as long as he spoke, he would attract a fatal disaster. Before becoming a Great Pung, the Great Kuan's huge body was the biggest target. Originally, if it was a normal size, the Big Kuan might have enough agility to avoid these attacks. However, its body was simply too big. It was so big that it could only float on this side of the ocean without saying a word or moving. The Mountain River geographical map gave Big Kuan a little hope. If he could successfully open up a space, he could live freely in it. Even if he didn't transform into a Great Pung, he wouldn't have to worry. It just so happened that he had detected the scent of the living soil from Yang Chen's body, So he took this opportunity to make his request. Breathing soil? Yang Chun was taken aback. Of course, Yang Chun had breathing soil, but it was only a few dozen gene worth of breathing soil flying sword. Now that the breathing soil flying sword had been completely refined into the immortal beheading saber, how could it be easily separated? Moreover, even if it could be separated, wouldn't his great yin-yang 5 elements flying sword be missing a corner? It was just the aura of breathing soil. Yang Chun looked at the huge body of Big Kun and suddenly thought of the huge space in the devil realm and the demon realm that grew crazily because of the absorption of devil chi and demon chi. That should also have the aura of breathing soil. He didn't know if it was suitable for Big Kun. Are these okay? Time was tight. Yang Chun couldn't care about anything else. He directly let the third primordial spirit appear in front of Big Kun. However, because of the barrier of the 3 realms, the third primordial spirit could only let Big Kun see and feel its aura, but it couldn't directly touch it. Boom! In a mountain river geographical map, a place with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles on the body of the Big Kun, which had been collected inside, suddenly shook violently. When all the movement stopped, Yang Chun discovered that it was just an eye of the Big Kun, and the movement just now was just the Big Kun opening its closed eyelid. The place where the earth shook and the mountain shook was just the land deposited on Big Kun's eyelid. There was a way Big Kun's third primordial spirit immediately showed the distribution of breathing soil in Devil Realm and Demon Realm in front of this eye of Big Kun. The huge space was already far more than a radius of millions of miles. It was definitely more than 100 times, thousands of times, and tens of thousands of times. You have 2 complete realms. Yang Chun thought that Big Kun would directly tell him about the breathing soil, but he didn't expect that Big Kun would say this after seeing this scene. Yes, Yang Chun replied. The entire immortal realm was filled with a loud sound, so that Big Kun could hear it clearly. I want all the space that grows from this breathing soil. Are you willing to give it to me? Hearing Yang Chun's answer, Big Kun immediately asked another question. Of course I have no problem with it. I can't wait for you to take it all. Yang Chun replied without hesitation with a bitter smile. But didn't you notice? There's so much powerful devil chi and demon chi on it. If you absorb it, I guarantee that you can directly smash the immortal realm. After all, Big Kun was also a cultivator. As long as he was a cultivator, he would inevitably be affected by the devil chi and demon chi. All the demon chi in devil realm and demon realm have been accumulated in the 3 realms for countless years. If it was stuffed into Big Kun's body, it would definitely cause him to explode. Those outside who are not your friends, leave them for me to make up for. Big Kun suddenly said a deal that made Yang Chun pleasantly surprised. In addition, you have to give me all the heavenly essence pills that you mentioned just now. Also, you have to provide this breathing soil to me whenever I need it. If possible, I can promise you to build a mountain gate on my back. Deal. Yang Chun was overjoyed. What else could he say? He immediately agreed. You have a few powerful friends outside. Big Kun immediately requested. Let's cooperate. They can't kill me. Chapter 26-27. From this sentence, it could be clearly seen that the Big Kun actually had a clear understanding of the strength of Ancestor Lu and the others. He knew that it was not easy for everyone to capture him alive, but it was easy to kill him, so the first request was not to kill him. Of course, for Yang Chun, this was not a big problem. He did not want to kill the Big Kun in the first place, and he still wanted to use his back as the core mountain gate. How could he be willing to kill him easily? In fact, you also know that those seniors can't kill you. Yang Chun smiled and reassured the Big Kun. What's the difference between making this request and not making it? That's not the same. Yang Chun felt that it didn't matter, but the Big Kun felt that it was necessary. It was related to his own life, so it was better to be cautious. Those big shots have different thoughts every day. If one day they are unhappy, who knows what they will do? Okay. Yang Chun could understand the Big Kun's thinking, and at this time, he could only agree on behalf of Ancestor Lu and the others. This did not mean that Yang Chun could make the decision for Ancestor Lu, but everyone knew what this Big Kun was going to do, in Chunyang Palace. No one would risk offending Ancestor Lu and Yang Chan at the same time to do such a laborious and unrewarding thing. From the perspective of the Big Kuan, there was indeed this risk, especially when he realized that Ancestor Lu and the others were super masters who could kill him at any time. In order to capture him alive, they had spent hundreds of years preparing. Now that they were facing the risk of failure, he could completely imagine the killing moves of those big shots under the anger. The Big Kuan was not willing to face these big shots at this time, and he really couldn't escape. It could only be said that at the beginning, the Big Kuan still had a fluke mentality, so he had been resisting. Until this point, he suddenly realized that his resistance might have provoked a powerful person. If he had transformed into a Big Kuan with his cultivation and speed, he would not be afraid of any cultivator. But now he was just a Big Kuan that was 100 times bigger than an ordinary Big Kuan, so he could only bow his head obediently in front of Ancestor Lu and the others. You have to swear. Originally, at this point, the two sides were basically settled. But at this moment, the Great Kuan suddenly made a request to Yang Chun. Great Heart Demon Oath. Yang Chun didn't know what was happening outside, but the Great Kuan wanted him to make a Great Heart Demon Oath. This was a good opportunity for Yang Chun, so he immediately replied, Then you also have to make a Great Heart Demon Oath. Big Kuan swore loudly without saying a word. I swear by my inner demon that I am willing to join Chunyang Palace. I am willing to carry the mountain gate of Chunyang Palace for the rest of my life and protect the safety of Chunyang Palace. Yang Chen didn't know what was going on for a while. After being stunned for a while, he also swore on his inner demon that Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, and Neza wouldn't kill Big Kuan. Only after hearing Yang Chen's oath did the Great Kuan smile and relax. Yang Chun didn't know what was happening outside, but the Great Kuan did. Everything happened on the back of the Great Kuan. As long as the Great Kuan wanted to know, it would know. Just now, the people of the Zhao family had broken hundreds of array eyes and rushed to the array eyes of Zhou Tianjun and Marshal Lin, who were one level lower than Ancestor Lu and the others. At this point, there were less than 100 masters who were struggling to maintain the entire array. It was impossible to continue to maintain a complete array. It could be said that the array had been completely broken by the Zhao family. Once the array was broken, the Great Kuan could no longer be suppressed and could escape at any time. It also meant that the arrangements of Ancestor Lu and the others for 100 years had been ruined and completely useless. 6 peerless experts, Patriarch Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, the 3 patriarchs of the dragon race, and dozens of Marshal Lin, Zhou Tianjun, and the experts of the dragon race. They had put in a lot of effort for this, but now they were all ruined. The anger of so many supermasters had erupted. One could imagine how the Great Kuan felt. Can I come in now? The Great Kuan seemed a little anxious when he said this. The killing intent outside was getting stronger and stronger. If he didn't come in soon, he was afraid that he would be affected. Once Ancestor Lu and the others misunderstood that he wanted to take the opportunity to turn the tables, it would not be a good result. Of course, Yang Chun gave the Great Kuan an affirmative answer and then completely opened the geographical map to accept the Great Kuan. At this moment, the Big Kuan was a little panicked and quickly swam in. Along with the huge land on its back and a part of the huge ocean where its body was, it rushed into the mountain river geographical map abruptly and quickly. All the experts outside saw the world shake. Not long after, all the land that they had seen before completely disappeared, leaving only an empty and turbid ocean. It was unknown how long it had been since the water had seen the sun. It was pitch black and lifeless. There was not a single living thing. It was not like an ordinary ocean at all. The Zhao family was stunned. They had fought to prevent the Great Kuan from being taken by Yang Chun. But what was the current situation? While the Zhao family was stunned, Ancestor Lu and the others finally showed a little smile. It seemed that Yang Chun had successfully taken the Great Kuan. He had finally dealt with the Great Kuan before these Zhao family bastards. All that was left was to help Ancestor Lu and the others vent their anger. Previously, in order to maintain the formation, he had no time to pay attention to those clowns. Now that the only thing holding him back had disappeared, it was just the right time to vent his anger on these guys. Ancestor, leave their bodies. This disciple has promised to give the great Kuan to him. Yang Chen's figure appeared directly not far from Ancestor Lu and said to Ancestor Lu. Then he quickly disappeared and entered the geographical map. When he appeared again, he was already next to Yang Jian. Basically, Yang Chen reminded every master at least once, lest they were too ruthless and couldn't even find the bodies. However, Yang Chen still underestimated the vigilance of the Zhao family. When they found that they could no longer stop the great Kuan from being taken by Yang Chen, the Zhao family masters were stunned for a moment and immediately retreated under the command of the 9 masters. This was definitely not a place to stay for a long time. If they did not leave, they were afraid that they would have to face those masters who had been disturbed. After all, Ancestor Lu and the others were still far away. It would take at least a few hours to rush over from the eye of the formation. This was considered fast. The ancestor of the Dragon Clan, who was the furthest away, would probably take more than a day to rush over. However, the masters of the Zhao family were vigilant, but they did not expect the effect of the geographical map. What was even more unexpected was that the Great Kuan was full of thoughts of atoning for its crimes. Thousands of experts of the Zhao clan quickly entered a cave abode, and then, with the help of the fastest companion, they fled at the fastest speed. However, in the direction of his escape, a huge black hole with a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles suddenly appeared. When he reacted, he had already plunged into it and was swallowed by the black hole. Chapter 26-28. You're just taking advantage of us. Ancestor Lu and the others couldn't help but curse when they saw the thousands of experts of the Zhao clan plunging headlong into the gigantic mouth in a panic under their immense pressure. However, they could only curse once, because Yang Chun had already appeared in time to tell them the whole story. Even if they wanted to beat this beast up now, they couldn't do anything. What was the point of beating such a huge guy up? They couldn't kill him either. They could only watch as the guys they used to vent their anger were swallowed by him. But on the other hand, it was quite satisfying to see the guys from the Zhao family end up like this. Weren't you all arrogant before? Weren't you all domineering? Weren't you all full of fighting spirit? How about now? In the end, he was still swallowed by a beast. Moreover, this was their own beast, so it felt different. The changes to this place were simply too great. The land, spanning a radius of 5 million kilometers, had disappeared without a trace, revealing a lifeless ocean. Any cultivator, be it Great Yao or hermit cultivators, would surely pay attention to this. Even the great sects would pay attention to this place. Unfortunately, it was too late no matter how much they paid attention. Chunyang Palace had already taken the lead, obtained the biggest bargaining chip, and obtained the greatest benefits. No matter how envious those guys were, they could only look on and sigh. Thinking about it, it was a very satisfying thing. It's indeed satisfying. Neza giggled as he drank the wine. He spoke about his feelings. I used to think that it would be the best to kill people directly. But now that I think about it, it's also a very satisfying experience to do something that makes those who don't like you speechless and depressed. In the past, Neja had always killed people. Now that he had been with Yang Chen for a long time, he had also learned Yang Chen's evil ways. He always liked to do things that made people speechless, and he never got tired of it. Now that he had gotten rid of Big Kuan, he had tasted the kind of joy. What he wanted to see now was the faces of the big sect and the heavenly court when the news spread to the capital. Since Big Kuan lowered his head and took the initiative to surrender, everyone was magnanimous enough to let him off the hook. However, this Big Kuan was also very cunning. He knew that with so many masters here, any one of them could kill him, but he saw that everyone didn't want to kill him in the first place, so he refused to immediately bow his head. Only when Ancestor Lu and the others clearly had the intention to kill him did he quickly give in. This fellow was also a master of changing the direction of the wind. Where's the big guy? Yang Jian didn't say much and directly asked about the whereabouts of the Big Kuan. That way. Yang Chun pointed in a direction. Now that the Big Kuan was willing to surrender, it naturally could enter and exit the mountain river geographical map at any time, and Yangchun would not restrict it. However, since Yang Jin asked, he naturally had to answer. He still doesn't dare to see you, seniors. However, I think his stomach is feeling uncomfortable right now. If seniors are still not satisfied, you can go and vent your anger. His words reminded everyone that they were indeed in a bad mood. How could they hold themselves back after hearing these words? All of them flew over. It was true that the big Kun was big enough to swallow thousands of Zhao family experts in one gulp, but it couldn't kill them instantly. These Zhao family elites couldn't catch up to Ancestor Lu and the others in terms of cultivation, but they were at most slightly weaker than Heavenly Cycle Lord and Marshal Lin. With such a large number of them, it was more than enough to survive in the big Kun's stomach for a short period of time. Open your mouth. With a thought from Yangchun, everyone appeared in front of the big Kun. Compared to the big Kun's size, everyone's bodies were less than ants in front of it. However, Yangchun could still easily transmit his orders. Seniors, go in and help you kill them. The big Kun was very cooperative and accompanied by exaggerated opening of its mouth. It caused the entire immortal realm to buzz. It opened its bloody mouth that was millions of miles wide. It had to be said that the big Kun's cultivation was absolutely powerful. In just a short while, half of the Zhao family experts who had been swallowed by it had died. The others were still holding on, but that was all they could do. There was no chance of escape. The remaining survivors also gathered together and set up a formation to resist bitterly. Without another word, Ancestor Lu and the others went straight for the large group of Zhao family experts. Heavenly Cycle Lord, Marshal Lin, and the others were no exception. Together with the Dragon Clan experts, dozens of them charged into the crowd and started a massacre. Everyone was in high spirits. They didn't care that they were in the big Kun's stomach or that they were surrounded by its body. All sorts of killing moves were unleashed, but the big Kun endured all of them. The big Kun cooperatively opened its mouth wide, not daring to move a muscle as it waited for the slaughter to be over. He knew that this was definitely because the experts were dissatisfied with his previous performance. While they were killing the Zhao family members to vent their anger, they were also giving him a small punishment. Therefore, even though his stomach was in turmoil, he didn't dare move lightly. A beating was inevitable, so he might as well accept it. Awesome. When the last Zhao family expert was killed, Ancestor Lu waved his horsetail whisk and slowly walked out of the big Kun's mouth. The other experts also left in different directions. The big Kun was so big that everyone was still far away when they came out. There's no time like the present. Since everyone is here, give me a chance to help set up a mountain gate. Ancestor Lu and these experts didn't stand on ceremony. After gathering together, they directly made their request. Anyway, after hundreds of years of getting along, they were already familiar with those who were not familiar with each other. This small request was not a problem. They got to work immediately. The Dragon Clan helped refine several Dragon Clan squares that could connect to various spiritual veins. As for the palaces and pavilions of the Mountain Gate, Yangchun used several cave magic treasures to build several suitable palaces on the back of the big Kun. Soon, the core mountain gate of Chunyang Palace rose from the ground on the back of the big Kun. It was unbreakable. After setting up various formations, Ancestor Lu and the others refined a batch of token magic treasures. This was the proof to enter the core mountain gate. As long as one had the token, he could enter the core mountain gate in the form of a spatial magic treasure at any time through a communication magic array that was to be set up in the mountain gate of Chunyang Palace. In the future, take care of the disciples of Chunyang Palace. You will benefit greatly. Ancestor Lu was very satisfied with this incomparably safe core mountain gate. He promised the big Kun, "We will do our best to help you transform into a rock and help you soar into the sky as soon as possible. During this time, you can eat the live soil in the mountain river geographical map with peace of mind." Chapter 26-29. The big Kraken had been properly settled, and the core mountain gate of Chunyang Palace had also been settled. It could be regarded as a major event of the sect. Because of the cooperation, Ancestor Lu and others had become very familiar with each other. Everyone was basically friends. Even Neza and the Dragon Clan were not mortal enemies now. It was not uncommon to see Neza drinking with a certain Dragon Clan master. In short, it was a happy situation. These things were already very happy, but the most surprising thing was the changes in the mountain and river geographical map. Ancestor Lu and others often entered and exited the mountain river geographical map. The changes brought by these masters were not small, but it was not balanced. However, when the big Kraken entered the mountain river geographical map, the mountain river geographical map immediately became different. First of all, the territorial space of the Immortal realm had directly expanded by at least tens of millions of miles. The big Kraken itself had a spatial improvement attribute, and the expansion of the space was only the most basic benefit that the big Kraken brought to the mountain river geographical map. Another very obvious benefit was that the Immortal realm had become more stable, and there was a faint sign of becoming a higher level than the spatial magic treasure. The Immortal realm in the mountain river geographical map was not like the mortal world and the spiritual world. Both the mortal world and the spiritual world had absorbed and refined the complete demon realm and monster realm. They were all very complete realms. Only the Immortal realm was still at the level of a spatial magic treasure. There was no way to upgrade it to the level of a complete realm, and it was not even a half realm. However, after the big Kraken came in, it was obvious that the overall level had been improved, and it began to rush in the direction of a half realm. Although it was not known how long this change would take, perhaps it would take thousands of years or even longer. As long as there was this trend of change, it was better than anything else. Inside the mountain river geographical map, it was very easy for the third primordial spirit to get a part of the living soil full of devil chi and monster chi to the Immortal realm. Not to mention that the big Kraken had a unique ability to cross space. The big Kraken easily ate a large piece of living soil with a radius of at least 10,000 miles. It had to be said that the devil chi and monster chi were too powerful. Even with the size of the big Kraken, it could only eat so much at one time. Just eating it was not enough. It would take a long time to refine it to eliminate the changes brought by the devil chi and monster chi. If you can find another dimension worth expanding and complete the three realms, those auras won't be much of a problem. The Great Kuan also felt that it was unrealistic to rely on its own ability to dispel the devil chi and demon chi, so it once again gave Yang Chun a huge surprise. As long as the three realms are in balance, those auras will naturally become balanced. Everything in the world needed balance the most. No matter which aspect was outstanding, it would develop in the direction of balance. This was also the common characteristic of a complete world. The drawback of the geographical map of mountains and rivers happened to be here. The three realms were still missing one, so it was impossible to construct a complete world. Yang Chun had always had the thought of mending the three realms, but it had never been as urgent as it was now. At the thought that as long as he could repair the three realms, the devil chi and demonic chi would slowly be balanced, and he would no longer have to worry about the excessive negative aura that would lead to the destruction of living beings. Yang Chun wished he could solve it immediately. Where could one find a complete world? The Immortal world itself was definitely not desirable. Even if Yang Chun dared to think about it, the vast majority of cultivators would not be willing. However, in addition to the Immortal world itself, Yang Chun only knew of the Sacred World and the half-divine world that the Zhao family was still operating. In the Sacred World, there were definitely old monsters at the Dao ancestor level. There was no need to think about it. The only place that could be targeted was the Divine World that was controlled by the Zhao family. However, except for the core direct descendants of the Zhao family, no one knew where the Divine World was. Even the leader of the Zhao family's team that attacked Ancestor Lu was captured and questioned for a long time by Ancestor Lu, but they did not get any useful information from him. In the end, they could only kill him. It could be said that the Divine World was now the only remaining base of the Zhao family in the three realms. It was also the only capital for their revival. It was absolutely covered up tightly, and no mistakes were allowed. If they wanted to wait for the Zhao family to reveal a flaw, they could only wait for the next time they made a move. However, Yangchen also believed that the Zhao family would not let them wait for too long. This time, the Zhao family dispatched almost 10,000 people, among which there were thousands of elites. They were the elites of the family. All of them were killed by the Big Kuan at one time. It was definitely a loss that would make the Zhao family want to cry, but have no tears. Even if it was to boost morale, they had to make a big scene. In this way, it was estimated that the Chunyang Palace that caused the Zhao family to suffer heavy losses would be the first to bear the brunt. Therefore, while the Zhao family had not received the complete news, Yang Chun and the others had to rush back to Chunyang Palace as soon as possible. At least, they had to arrange for the core disciples of Chunyang Palace to be here at the core mountain gate. On the way back, the Dragon Clan's ancestor drove his shuttle and brought everyone back at lightning speed. The speed was more than twice as fast as Yangchen's. Of course, this was also because the Dragon Clan's ancestors' cultivation was much higher than Yangchen's. In the beginning, the Big Kuan swallowed thousands of experts of the Zhao family. Although each expert's corpse was a tonic for the Big Kuan size was too big. The small tonic could only make him feel a little better. In the Big Kuan's own words, it was not enough for him to heal the injuries caused by Ancestor Lu and the others when they vented their anger. Yang Chun did not break his promise and threw all the primordial heaven pills to the Big Kuan. It had to be said that the primordial heaven pills, which had been refined by the Immortal beheading stage, made the Big Kuan feel better than the corpse of an innumerable tribulation true immortal. Although the improvement in cultivation was very small, the overall effect was almost the same as the effect of thousands of experts' corpses. However, the huge amount of living soil made the Big Kuan ecstatic. If it wasn't for the fact that the devil chi and demonic chi had consumed 99% of its energy to resist and dispel them, it might have been able to rely on digesting the living soil to improve its cultivation in a short period of time. The living soil was something that the Big Kuan needed. It had immeasurable benefits for the growth of the Big Kuan. In the past, even if no one disturbed the Big Kuan, there was no hope for the Big Kuan's cultivation to improve to the transformation stage for a long time. But now, the Big Kuan knew very well that the rest was actually a matter of time, and it would not take a long time. After the mountain gate in the back of the Big Kuan was refined and placed by Ancestor Lu and the others, it was the Big Kuan's turn to refine it himself. It was just that Ancestor Lu and the others could only be placed on the back of the Big Kuan at most. But if the Big Kuan refined it himself, it was equivalent to growing on the back of the Big Kuan. One day, when the Big Kuan transformed into a great pung, maybe the mountain gate placed on the back of the Big Kuan would fall because of its high-speed flight. But after the Big Kuan was refined, there would never be such a problem. The core mountain gate of the Chunyang Palace would be firmly connected with the Big Kuan. Chapter 2630. Another advantage of being refined by Big Kuan was that the entire core mountain gate would be under the protection of Big Kuan. The disciples who entered it could enjoy the complete and thoughtful protection of Big Kuan. Why would Yang Chun deliberately build a core mountain gate? The most fundamental and direct reason was that the ordinary mountain gate was not safe enough to bear the heavy responsibility of protecting the disciples of Chunyang Palace. With this core mountain gate, basically as long as it was not a master at the level of Ancestor Lu, it could be said that Chunyang Palace was basically safe and sound. Any guy who attacked the core mountain gate would be attacked indiscriminately by Big Kuan. Don't think too much about it. As long as you think that you will be swallowed by a giant mouth of 1,000,000 miles, and even the fastest flying magic weapon could not escape, what would it feel like? Not every master was at the level of Ancestor Lu. Even if Ancestor Lu made a move, it would take a long time to prepare. Therefore, it could be said that Chunyang Palace was already safe and sound. All the way back to Chunyang Palace, safe and sound, Yang Chun was completely relieved. Now Chunyang Palace was presided over by the head of the palace. Although Ancestor Lu was also there, he was not keen on managing such a huge sect. In this regard, the head of the palace was the most professional. During the hundreds of years they were busy, the head of the palace had clearly distinguished the loyalty of some disciples. Coupled with the core disciples who ascended from the spiritual world, the direct descendants of Chunyang Palace had completely taken control of Chunyang Palace. Ancestor Lu was purely a hands-off shopkeeper, and everything was handed over to Yang Chun to handle. Yang Chun, of course, discussed with the head of the palace, and then explained everything clearly, especially after introducing Big Kuan to the head of the palace. He told Big Kuan to listen to the words of the head of the palace. He also learned from Ancestor Lu to be a hands-off shopkeeper. Anyway, now that the core disciples entered the core mountain gate, it was also in the mountain river geographical map. Yang Chun did not have to worry about any big problems, as long as the head of the palace handled it himself. As for whether there would be any problems in the future, it was up to the head of the palace to discuss it with Big Kuan. Following that, Yang Chun originally wanted to live with his women for a period of time and cultivate together. In the end, Big Brother Li Chung returned. Big Brother Li Chung did not come back alone. There was also a female cultivator who came back with him. Li Cheng's cultivation had made great progress in the past few hundred years, and he had already entered the realm of 10,000 tribulations true immortal. However, Yang Chun was not envious at all. The Tao ancestor had been reborn. If he did not have this cultivation speed, it would be too frustrating. This was normal. Of course, Yang Chun didn't have the extravagant hope of challenging Big Brother Li Cheng's combat power at this time. That would be asking for a beating. Although Yang Chun liked to be taught by experts, he didn't have the habit of being beaten up by experts so easily. The one who came back with Big Brother Li Chung couldn't be seen through his cultivation. At first glance, he didn't seem to have any cultivation at all. But sometimes, when he accidentally revealed a bit of his aura, it would cause people to feel cold all over and be so scared that they wouldn't even dare to move. It was too frightening. As soon as Big Brother Li Chung returned, Ancestor Lu personally appeared. Ancestor Lu knew the identity of the Tao ancestor. Similarly, Neza didn't dare to neglect it. He dragged Yang Jian to greet him together. However, the few patriarchs of the dragon tribe were a little slower, but they also appeared in the end. Yang Jian was dragged by Neza to meet Yang Chen's sworn brother. At first, he was a little unhappy. Although he appreciated Yang Chun, he didn't want to lower himself to the point that even Yang Chen's sworn brother had to flatter him. However, when Yang Jian saw the veiled woman who appeared with Big Brother Li Chung, he was so scared that he didn't dare to say anything. He went forward and bowed to her. Yang Jian wasn't the only one who bowed to her. Ancestor Lu and Neza also did the same. The only difference between them and Yang Jian was that they were already mentally prepared for this, so they weren't too surprised. On the other hand, Yang Jian was indeed shocked. No wonder when Neza dragged Yang Chun to find Yang Jian back then, he kept revealing that Yang Chun had a very strong background. Until now, Yang Jian still didn't know the identity of this sworn brother of Yang Chun. However, even with the veiled woman who came back with him, Yang Jian could still recognize her aura. She was an important figure that even Yang Jian would respect from the bottom of his heart. Goddess Ho Tu, Mother Earth, could be said to be the mother of all living things on Earth. She was one of the few seniors in the celestial world that Yang Jian could accept wholeheartedly. In front of her, not to mention bowing to her, even kneeling 3 times and kowtowing 9 times wouldn't be too much. The 3 patriarchs of the dragon tribe also came over to pay their respects. Towards this person, almost all the living beings in the world, no matter if they were loyal and kind or evil, had the same reverence from the bottom of their hearts. There was no surprise. At the beginning, it wasn't even the turn for Yang Chen's family to bow. It was only after the seniors had finished bowing that Yang Chen's family had the chance to kowtow in front of Goddess Ho Tuesday. Even Ancestor Lu paid his respects. As juniors, it was only right for Yang Chen's family to kowtow. To everyone's surprise, when all the cultivators felt that it was normal for Yang Chen's family to kowtow, Goddess Ho Tu stood up and turned her body slightly. She accepted half of Yang Chen's bow. What was even more terrifying was that after Goddess Ho Tu accepted half of Yang Chen's bow, after Yang Chen's family got up, she bowed to Yang Chun, which scared everyone. How much face did the Lady of Earth have to bow and greet him? Yang Chun was a junior. What did he do? How could he accept such a bow from the goddess? Yang Chen's family was also terrified. When the girls saw the Lady of Earth bow, they knelt on the ground and returned the bow without saying a word. Yang Chen also made such a move. He did not dare to be arrogant and ignorant because of the Empress's kindness to him and really bear the bow of the Empress. However, no matter how hard Yang Chun tried, and even used the power of the Golden Body incantation and the third level of Kwa Yi's secret technique, his body was no longer under his control. He could not kneel down no matter what. He stood on the spot and accepted the bow of the Lady of Earth. Yang Chun, who had not sweated in such a non-battle situation for thousands of years, had not sweated even when he killed the Tao ancestor, the Jade Emperor, and the Queen Mother in the Immortal slaying platform. At that moment, he was sweating profusely. He was frightened by the Lady of Earth's bow. "All right, don't scare the child." Big Brother Li Cheng finally opened his mouth and gave Yang Chun a comfort so that he would not be too frightened. When the Lady of Earth bowed, just now, Brother Li Cheng was the only cultivator who was not surprised. He did not stop the Lady of Earth. Clearly, he felt that Yang Chun was qualified to accept the Lady of Earth's bow. Chapter 26:31. As soon as Brother Li Cheng spoke, even the Lady of Earth did not say anything else. She stood back slightly and left a place for Brother Li Cheng. Then Yang Jian watched in horror as Ancestor Lu and Neza greeted Li Cheng obediently. Then he felt the familiar aura of the Tao ancestor that Li Cheng had deliberately released. Immediately, Yang Jian broke out in a cold sweat. Li Cheng was Yang Chen's sworn brother. It was no wonder that Neza had wanted to say something when he pulled Yang Chun to see Yang Jian. Fortunately, Yang Jian was smart back then. He had always thought of giving Ancestor Lu and Neza face and let Yang Chen go. Although he was only slightly punished later on, that punishment could be considered to have indirectly helped Yang Chun. It could barely be considered a favor. When he thought about how he had almost killed the sworn brother of the Tao ancestor, Yang Jian could not stop breaking out in a cold sweat. He did not know how many times he had been lucky. Compared to Yang Jian, the three ancestors of the dragon race were much more confident. From the beginning, they had taken good care of Yang Chun. Later on, they had given him enough face. Even when Yang Chun proposed to persuade them to resolve the hatred between them and Neza, they had done it very well. That also allowed them to not bear so much pressure in front of the Tao ancestor. They did not have to secretly think that they were lucky. Of course, all of this was related to the two outstanding juniors, Ao Lan and Ao Lai. The three ancestors would definitely reward the two of them after the matter. "I haven't seen you for a few hundred years. You guys have really done this big thing." The Tao ancestor smiled at Yang Chen's family, who had come to greet him and encourage them. "It's mainly because of the hard work of the ancestral master. The seniors have helped to solve the key problem." Yang Chun did not take credit and pushed all the credit to Ancestor Lu and the others. Anyway, these things did not mean much to the Tao ancestor. The matter of Chunyang Palace had a greater impact on Ancestor Lu. "It's only right for the Lady of Earth to bow to you." The Tao ancestor explained that the Lady of Earth had bowed to Yang Chun just now. "I used all the merit you gave me in the spirit world on the Lady of Earth. Now that the Lady of Earth can recover, it's all thanks to you." Only the Tao ancestor himself could address the Lady of Earth as the Lady of Earth so casually. The others, including Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, and Neza, had to address her as the Lady of Earth respectfully. Yang Chun finally knew what Big Brother Li Cheng had done with his immeasurable merits. To Yang Chun, this was a pleasant surprise. Anyone would be willing to let an important figure like the Lady of Earth owe him a huge favor. At this point, Yang Chun finally guessed which big shot had changed the rules of the heavenly Tao out of kindness and injected the devil chi and demon chi into the demon realm and the demon realm. There was no need to ask, it was definitely the Lady of Earth. Although it caused the demonic aura and demonic aura to be unbalanced, the Lady of Earth's actions were indeed meritorious to the predecessors. It could be said that before the crisis erupted, all the cultivators, including the Tao ancestor, Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, and the three ancestors of the dragon race, had all received the Lady of Earth's favor. However, that was not without a price. The karma of so many cultivators, as well as the karma of countless generations of mortal cultivators and various living beings in the future, would probably be terrifying. At the very least, in his previous life, Yang Chun had never heard any news of the Lady of Earth appearing in the immortal world. Thinking about it, there must be a reason for this. If the above was just a guess, then Big Brotherly Chang's words that he had used all the merit on the Lady of Earth to recover was a straightforward explanation. Others did not know how much merit Yang Chun had, but Yang Chun knew. If this amount of merit was added to any of the seniors present, they would probably be able to directly ascend and become a sage. That terrifying merit had only allowed the Lady of Earth to recover. It was clear that the Lady of Earth had suffered unimaginable hardships over the years. If Big Brotherly Chung wanted to use that merit to become a saint himself, Yang Chun would definitely not say anything. If Big Brotherly Chung wanted to use it elsewhere, such as rebuilding the Order of the Heavenly Courts, Yang Chun would probably hesitate. However, if he used on the Lady of Earth, Yang Chun would not have any objections. It was because the reason why Yang Chun could reach such a level in his previous life, and this life, was because of the grace of the Lady of Earth. The Palace Master and a few core upper echelons were also the hosts of the Chunyang Palace. They were fortunate enough to meet the Tao Ancestor and the Lady of Earth. That was enough to make their hearts surge. Who could have known that Yang Chin's sworn brother back then had such a prominent background? Of course, after the shock, there was ecstasy. As a core senior member of the Chunyang Palace, he knew that his sect had the support of the Tao Ancestor, the Lady of Earth, Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, the three ancestors of the dragon race, and the entire dragon race. Wasn't that enough to be proud? He could probably do whatever he wanted in the entire immortal world. Although on the surface, the strength shown by the Chunyang Palace in the immortal world was not enough to enter the ranks of the super sect, there would definitely be a place in the future, and it would be a very high-ranking position. The energetic Palace Master and the others excitedly went to arrange the affairs of the sect, understand the layout of the new core mountain gate in detail, screen the core disciples, and so on, which was enough for them to be busy for a long time. As for this side, it was all handed over to Yang Chen's family to take care of. Because of the identity of the Tao Ancestor and the Lady of Earth, even Madame Bai's maids were all willing to serve the big shots as maids. I can't thank you enough. I'm afraid that I will have to trouble you for a long time in the future. Please arrange a residence for me in the Mountain River geographical map. At the reception banquet carefully arranged by Yang Chen's family, the Lady of Earth said her plans for the future. I still have a little experience in balancing the demonic energy and demonic energy. The Lady of Earth wanted to settle down in the Mountain River geographical map, which definitely made Yang Chun and Gong Sunling overjoyed. Not to mention what kind of improvement the Lady of Earth would bring to the Mountain River geographical map after she moved in. Just the balance of demonic energy and demonic energy that she said was enough to make Yang Chun and Gong Sunling smile from ear to ear. What did she mean by a little experience? One had to know that the Lady of Earth easily injected all the demonic energy and demonic energy of the three realms into the demon realm and the demon realm, and it did not affect the balance of the three realms for many years. This was a little experience? If this was just a little experience, then including Brotherly Chung, the Tao Ancestor, it was estimated that they had no understanding of demonic energy and demonic energy at all. Even though Yang Chun could even behead the Jade Emperor without changing his expression, he was still unable to control himself in the face of the so-called request of the Lady of Earth. He almost couldn't even speak and could only nod. Chapter 2632. At that moment, everyone looked at Yang Chun with envy, except for the Tao Ancestor. The Tao Ancestor probably knew about the Lady of Earth's decision long ago. Otherwise, he would not have brought her to Chunyang Palace. Even the Tao Ancestor, the Lady of Earth, thought so highly of Yang Chun and Chunyang Palace. What would the others think? Ancestor Lu was the founder of Chunyang Palace. There was no need to consider it. Yang Jian and Neza were now thinking if they should join Chunyang Palace and tie themselves to the Tao Ancestor, the Lady of Earth, and the others. It seemed that the Lady of Earth was very serious this time. That was great news. What surprised Yang Chun was that because the girls had prepared a wonderful banquet, the Lady of Earth specially invited Madame Bai to join her at the end of the banquet. She also brought Yang Chen's wives and concubines along. She said that they were kindred spirits and wanted to get closer to them. She was polite, but everyone understood that the Lady of Earth had taken a fancy to the potential of the girls and wanted to give them some guidance. At the same time, she also wanted to use this opportunity to repay Yangchun. To Yangchun and the girls, this was definitely a huge pie that had fallen from the sky. Moreover, it was a golden pie. Would Yangchun disagree? Or would the girls disagree? The only thing that made Yangchun unhappy was that he had finally reunited with the girls for a short while before he had to separate again. However, the guidance of the Lady of Earth was definitely more important now. If he wanted to reunite, there would be plenty of days in the future. They were all cultivators. What they lacked the most was not time. The Lady of Earth said that she wanted Yangchun to prepare a residence for her. In fact, the Lady of Earth had her own cave abode. Yangchun only needed to let the Lady of Earth choose a suitable place in the geographical map of the mountain river. Moreover, in the geographical map of the mountain river, the Lady of Earth could definitely use whichever place she wanted. In fact, if some places did not meet the Lady of Earth's requirements, Gong Sunling would modify them according to the Lady of Earth's wishes at any time. There's actually a koan here. The Lady of Earth had probably just recovered from her serious injuries and was not familiar with the mountain river geographical map. She did not know Big Brotherly Chung and sensed the aura of the great koan outside the mountain river geographical map. Instead, she only discovered this big fellow after entering. She could not help but be surprised. With him around, things would be a little easier. The Lady of Earth was definitely more familiar with the Great Koan than all the other cultivators except the Tao Ancestor. Even Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, and the Ancestor of the Dragon Race did not dare to say that they were on par with the Lady of Earth. Since Her Majesty said so, it meant that the subduing of Big Koan this time was also a lucky hit. She originally thought that it would only give Chunyang Palace one more core mountain gate, but now it was obvious that the benefits were not just that. I've told you before, my sworn brother's luck has always been good. The Tao Ancestor showed off to the Lady of Earth smugly. Before I left, I did not expect them to get such a huge surprise. Even the Tao Ancestor had said so. Obviously, the function of the Big Koan was definitely surprising. Without seeing the Lady of Earth do anything, everyone could not help but follow her to the Big Koan. Logically speaking, everyone could only look up at the Big Koan's body that was tens of millions of kilometers in radius. However, they did not know what technique the Lady of Earth had used, but the huge Big Koan had turned into an inconspicuous little whale in front of everyone. Fortunately, the Big Koan had only shrunk in size. All sorts of things on its body were not lost, including the continent on its back and the core mountain gate of Chunyang Palace. However, from the looks of it, the Big Koan no longer had the aura of swallowing the world in one gulp. It was small and adorable. Its body swayed nimbly and swam around the Lady of Earth. It floated in the air as if it was an ocean. From time to time, it would even rub against the Lady of Earth's body. Its performance could not be seen at all as ferocious as it swallowed thousands of experts of the Zhao family in one gulp. It was like a little pet that was fawning on its owner. It was very despicable. If they had known that the Big Koan would be subdued so easily by the Lady of Earth, Yangchun and the others would not have had to work so hard for hundreds of years. They would have just waited for the time to let the Lady of Earth go. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them and thought the same. Don't think that he's really that obedient. What kind of person was the goddess? She immediately knew what everyone was thinking. She smiled and said, "It's because he has already sworn a great heart demon oath and seen a lot of growing soil. Otherwise, it would be useless for us to take action unless we beat him into submission." This made everyone feel better. At least, they were not as upset as before. Thinking about it, the live soil seemed to be closely related to Yangchun. It was another proof of Yangchun's good luck. The Dharma treasures of the dragon race are really creative. After casually subduing the Big Koan, the Lady of Earth began to size up the mountain river geographical map from the inside. After looking at it for a while, she nodded and praised. "Unfortunately, I still failed to break through the final stage. I'm still lacking. If anyone else dared to say that they would have been beaten up by the dragon race to the point that their mothers wouldn't even recognize them. However, when the goddess said that, the three ancestors of the dragon race only nodded and did not dare to rebut her. This is a good opportunity. Perhaps you will gain some insights after experiencing it. The goddess did not say anything else and only gave them some pointers. Just that sentence was enough to tie the dragon race to Yang Chen's chariot and never get off again. By the way, Yang Chen, the goddess finally shifted the topic to Yang Chen and said to Yang Chen, there are two array formations outside. You know, the two array formations that are responsible for injecting the auras of the demon realm and the demon realm. Yang Chen knew that the two array formations had condensed the demonic aura and demonic aura of the three realms before injecting them into the demon realm and the demon realm. Previously, the Tao ancestor and Yang Chen's cultivation levels were low. They had chosen to block the passageway from the demon realm and the demon realm, but the two array formations were still there. If we don't deal with it, I'm afraid the accumulated demonic aura and demonic aura will cause trouble. The goddess explained to Yang Chen, don't bother two people for the same thing. Since you've already taken the demon realm and the demon realm, you can turn off those two array formations. After saying that, she seemed to have thought of something and said to Li Cheng, Tao ancestor, you can't help. Big brother Li Cheng smiled and didn't say anything. His attitude indicated that he agreed with the goddess's suggestion to let Yang Chen do it alone. The array formation must have been set up by the goddess personally, but she did not undo it herself and asked Yang Chen to turn it off. She even specially emphasized that Brother Li Cheng was not allowed to help. Needless to say, this was a small test for Yang Chen. He did not know what the final goal of this test was, but he could imagine that if he could pass the test of the Lady of Earth, Yang Chen would definitely obtain great benefits. Now, Yang Chen was already looking forward to the time to turn off the two array formations. Chapter 2633. Yang Chen did not dare to delay the Lady of Earth's instructions. He should do it immediately. However, before leaving, Yang Chen still had to have a good chat with Brother Li Cheng. At the very least, he had to let him know what he had done all these years. As he drank with Brother Li Cheng, he chatted about his cultivation and experiences over the years. Yang Chen knew that Brother Li Cheng was the reincarnation of a Tao ancestor, but subconsciously, he had always treated Brother Li Cheng as the sworn brother of his fellow Taoist who had ascended from the mortal world with him. He did not treat him as the Tao ancestor. This feeling was completely different from when he faced the Lady of Earth. Facing the Lady of Earth, Yang Chen only had respect from the bottom of his heart. He did not have any other thoughts. However, that was what was strange. Logically speaking, the Tao ancestor status was only higher than the Lady of Earth's. However, when Yang Chen faced the Tao ancestor, he did not like to treat the Tao ancestor like he treated the goddess. He would rather treat him as a sworn brother and chat freely and drink some wine. He believed that Brother Li Cheng would rather Yang Chen treat him as a sworn brother and not let him treat him as the Tao ancestor. When one was at a high place, it would be lonely at a high place. From time to time, there would be a brother who did not treat him as an expert. He could drink some wine and brag when he had nothing to do. That was the most comfortable thing. Brother Li Cheng was also chatting with Yang Chen. They were talking about how he went out to save the Lady of Earth this time. Yang Chen's guess was right. After the upheaval in the heavenly courts, the Lady of Earth had suffered unimaginable hardships. That was the result of the karma backlash. Brother Li Cheng had used the huge amount of merit that Yang Chen had paid to let the Lady of Earth recover with difficulty. However, even so, the Lady of Earth would need at least thousands of years to fully recover. On one hand, the goddess took the initiative to enter the mountain river geographical map to repay Yang Chen. On the other hand, there was no lack of reason to cultivate in the mountain river geographical map. In order to recover the Lady of Earth, apart from the huge amount of merit that Yang Chen had given him, Brother Li Cheng had also paid a huge price. Although Big Brother Li Cheng didn't say much, Yang Chen could tell from Big Brother Li Cheng's cultivation that he hadn't recovered to the state of Patriarch Lu and the others. He didn't even have the cultivation of Heavenly Monarch Lin. This was enough to explain the problem. After that, they didn't talk about their experiences anymore. It was all about bragging and talking about the world. The two brothers drank while chatting. Big Brother Li Cheng was also very happy. After his identity as a Tao ancestor was revealed, only Yang Chen was still the same as before. Even Yang Chen's women were well-behaved when they saw him. It was as if he had returned to the time when he was reborn, and he was very unhappy. The two of them didn't use their cultivation to catalyze the wine. They just enjoyed the fragrance of the wine to their heart's content, drinking until the sky turned dark. Those two array formations are over at the Lady of Earth's palace. In the end, after drinking enough, Li Cheng told Yang Chen the location of the two array formations that the Lady of Earth had mentioned. However, that side is almost destroyed. Just do whatever you want. Brother Li Cheng's last sentence was to let Yang Chen not have to worry about the consequences. It could also be considered as giving Yang Chen confidence. With his support, with that sentence, Yang Chen could do whatever he wanted without worrying about anything else. For example, destroying the Lady of Earth's palace. The Lady of Earth's palace was not in the capital of the heavenly courts. It was not in the Lingxiao treasure hall. In Yang Chen's memory, the palace of the Lady of Earth in his previous life had long been in ruins. It was already like that before he ascended. In the past, he had always thought that it had happened when the heavenly courts changed dynasties and that it had been done by the experts of the new heavenly courts. Now, he knew that it was not the case. He had never seen the Lady of Earth in the Immortal beheading platform. Yang Chen also thought that the Lady of Earth was killed on the spot during the upheaval of the heavenly courts. Now, he knew the real reason. As for what was going on with the Lady of Earth's palace, it was probably related to the two array formations. After being infected by such a high concentration of demonic qi and demonic qi for a long time, no matter how good the magic weapon or the best cave house was, it would still be useless. He drank to his heart's content with Brother Li Cheng, and the two of them almost drank at the same time. Fortunately, Gao Yu had already paid attention to the situation here. She arranged for two concubines to serve them, and sent them back to the Dragon Palace to sleep. After waking up, Yang Chen no longer procrastinated. After saying goodbye to the palace master, he directly set foot on the road to the Lady of Earth's palace. With Yang Chen, there was only Xiao Tian and no one else. This was not the first time that Yang Chen went out alone in the immortal world, but this time was obviously a little special. The Lady of Earth had always lived alone, but after the upheaval of the heavenly courts, basically no one came to the old man's side. It was common sense that the Lady of Earth would not easily see any cultivator. Everyone knew the character of the Lady of Earth, and no one would come to find trouble for themselves. Out of respect for the Lady of Earth, the tens of thousands of miles around the Lady of Earth's palace was designated as a forbidden area. That was not the intention of the Lady of Earth, but purely by the cultivators out of respect. After the upheaval of the heavenly courts, it seemed that this place had also become a ruin overnight. In addition, the demonic qi and demonic qi were extremely rich. Although it did not appear, as long as the cultivators entered a certain range, they would unconsciously have a heart demon and become weak, which made everyone very frightened. They thought that this was a formation set up by the Lady of Earth, and they were afraid of being caught in the crossfire, so they would always leave in a hurry. As time passed, no one came to this place anymore, which made it a true forbidden area. The degree of demonic qi and demonic qi invasion on the periphery was not a problem at all for Yang Chen, who had passed the test of the demon realm and the monster realm. He casually walked directly to the deepest place. If he wanted to turn off the array formation, he had to see it, right? Along the way, there was basically no threat to Yang Chen. It was not until he was 500 kilometers away from the Lady of Earth's palace that Yang Chen understood what Brother Li Cheng meant by it being almost destroyed. According to what Yang Chen had heard before, the Lady of Earth's palace was also a large palace complex with a radius of 500 kilometers. It was one of the four royals' palaces. Even if it was not stronger than the Lingxiao treasure hall in terms of scale and aura, it was not much weaker. One should be able to feel that soaring aura from thousands of kilometers away. However, even though he was so close, he still did not see any sign of the palace, nor did he see any dignified aura. Apart from the demonic chi and demonic chi that made countless cultivators restless, there was nothing else. It was still the same when he was 50 kilometers away. However, the density of the demonic chi and demonic chi increased. Unfortunately, the major sect did not know what was happening here. Otherwise, it would not have been Yang Chen's turn to sell the high-purity demonic chi and demonic chi in exchange for their various resources. All the negative auras here could be used to refine the barrier-dispelling pill. Further ahead, he arrived at the place where the palace should be. Yang Chen looked around and saw nothing but a black ocean. Chapter 2634. Yang Chen was very familiar with the black ocean. The aura was strong. It was a high concentration of demonic aura and demonic aura that had condensed into liquid. Yang Chen had seen this in the core of the demon world and the demon world. However, the original palace of the Lady of Earth had completely disappeared. Yang Chen knew what was going on. He reckoned that apart from a limited number of Dharma treasures, such as Yang Chen's 9 nether flying sword and the living soil flying sword, there would be no other outcome after being immersed in such a high concentration of demonic aura and demonic aura for a long time. The sea of demonic aura and demonic aura on the goddess's side were not huge, but they were not small. Yang Chen could also tell that this should have been formed in the past few thousand years. It should have been accumulated here after brotherly Cheng locked the passageway between the demon world and the demon world. Presumably, the two formations should be beneath this sea. If that was the case, Yang Chen would not find it difficult. However, was the Lady of Earth's test only this difficult? Even an idiot would know that it was impossible. If the Lady of Earth only asked Yang Chen to go there personally, it would be too casual. It was better not to have such a test. As long as he owed Yang Chen a favor, it would be more straightforward. The demonic aura and demonic aura were easy to deal with. As long as he closed the array formation and used the living soil flying sword to bring the mountain river geographical map over, he could easily absorb the demonic aura and demonic aura. At the same time, he could expand the space of the immortal world, increase the food for the koan, and shorten the time for the koan to transform. The problem was the array formation. An array formation that could withstand the invasion of the demonic aura for tens of thousands of years and take the initiative to collect the demonic aura and inject it into the demon world, and the demon world was definitely not an array formation that could resist ordinary pressure. It was clearly not easy to close such an array formation. At this time, Yang Chen remembered one thing, that was whether it was the Hota goddess or brotherly Cheng, they did not tell him how to close the two formations. Yang Chen could find the formation, but how could he close it? Now, Yang Chen was faced with this problem. He could dive into the sea of demon chi and sea of demon chi without a care in the world and find the location of the formation by digging up the demon chi and demon chi at the bottom of the sea. However, he was helpless against these two formations that could withstand the demon chi and demon chi of the entire three realms. The formation was too stable, so stable that Yang Chen believed that it was not much worse than the complete devil realm and demon realm. The Lady of Earth was indeed the Lady of Earth. The array formation she set up was definitely extraordinary. The two spirit arrays were huge. In order to explore the entire array, Yang Chen spent a full 10 years just to study it. Only then did he get a general idea of it. But even so, it was only a rough idea, and it was something he had learned from outside the formation. Again, the array formation was too stable. It was so stable that even spiritual sense couldn't penetrate the array formation. Two such solid and slippery array formations had appeared at the same time. This really gave Yang Chen a headache. He knew that it was a test, but Yang Chen had no clue. This made Yang Chen go crazy. However, Yang Chen did not lose his composure. The madness was just a simple emotional vent brought about by the demonic aura. Soon, Yang Chen calmed down. After carefully checking the array formation again, Yang Chen knew that he had plenty of time now. With the Tao Ancestor and the Lady of Earth, Ancestor Lu, Yang Jian, Neza, and the entire dragon race, the Zhao family and the Xintian sect could not overturn the sky. It made no difference whether Yang Chen was there or not, so he could spend as much time as he wanted to check the two array formations inch by inch and find a breakthrough. It was not that there was no breakthrough at all on Yang Chen's side. Even if it was a perfect array formation, Yang Chen could still create a flaw. After the Immortal Slaying Saber fused with the Immortal Slaying platform, it would become an upgraded version of the real Immortal Slaying Saber. It would be a perfect Immortal Slaying Saber that had been strengthened by the Diamond Chakram and Little Tion. Even if he could not break the array with one slash with the Immortal Slaying Saber, no matter how strong the array formation was, it would still be shattered. The problem was that Yang Chen did not want to use such an extreme method at the moment. If he really used such a method, the Lady of Earth's test would be ruined. Hard work paid off. Under Yang Chen's inspection inch by inch, a hint at the edge of the array formation allowed Yang Chen to find a key point to close the array formation. There were two array formations with a radius of thousands of kilometers, and there was only a small area that was slightly different from the surroundings and inconspicuous edge. Furthermore, it was drowned by the sea of demonic chi and demonic chi, and his spiritual senses could not penetrate it. Finding these 2 points could not be described as luck. Just finding these 2 points took Yang Chen more than 100 years. Fortunately, Yang Chen was in a good state of mind and did not mind spending this bit of time. Perhaps this was the first step of the goddess test. It was to test if he was careful and persistent enough. To be safe, Yang Chen did not directly choose to take action on the array formation that collected demonic chi. Instead, he started on the array formation that collected demonic chi. There was no other reason. The demonic chi was one level lower than the demonic chi. The demon world corresponded to the mortal world, while the demon world corresponded to the spirit world. If anything happened, he believed that it would be safer. This was an array formation set up by the Lady of Earth. There was no need for Yang Chen to show off and challenge the highest level of the array formation. With just a wave of great yin-yang 5 elements spiritual power, the place opened like a switch. Then, a gentle force pushed away all the demonic chi and spiritual chi in the area, forming an area about the size of an ordinary room. An illusory shadow of the Lady of Earth appeared in front of Yang Chen. Even though it was just a shadow, Yang Chen could still see the sacred aura of the Lady of Earth from the shadow. You're not bad. You can find this flaw in the array formation. The goddess's shadow said, "You're the most outstanding young man I've ever seen. Thank you for your praise, goddess." Although it was only a shadow, Yang Chen still expressed his respect. Actually, this is not a test. The goddess's shadow spoke again. Of course, you can say that it's a test. It's actually very simple to close the array formation. You just need to inject one of your divine sense avatars in this position of the two arrays. This requires people who have cultivated the 3 purities art. The Tao ancestor has been reborn and has no new divine sense avatars. The only person in the world who has cultivated the 3 purities art is you. As long as your 2 divine sense avatars take over these 2 arrays, you can easily close the array formation. Chapter 2635. At first glance, this condition didn't seem harsh. Yang Chen had cultivated the 3 purities art, and he was the only one who had cultivated it after the Tao ancestor. Now that the Tao ancestor could no longer split his divine sense, Yang Chen was the only one who was suitable. Yang Chen did have 2 divine sense clones. The problem was that one was the artifact spirit of his life magic treasure, and the other was the artifact spirit of the mountain river geographical map. If the 2 divine sense clones were gone, the problem would be huge. The Immortal Slaying Saber had always been Yang Chen's life magic treasure. With the second essence soul as the artifact spirit, its power had indeed increased a lot. However, if there was no artifact spirit, the problem wouldn't be too big. At most, the power would be reduced by half, but the Immortal Slaying Saber was still Yang Chen's life magic treasure. So many years of life sacrifice were not in vain. However, the artifact spirit of the mountain river geographical map was not that simple. It could be said that the mountain river geographical map could form a world of its own because of the third essence soul that had mastered a part of the heavenly Tao. If there was no third essence soul to suppress so many dragon artifact spirits and did not master the heavenly Tao, the Mountain River geographical map would still be the Mountain River geographical map. At most, it would be at the level of Long Can. It would never be able to completely refine the two realms and reach the current scale. Yang Chun didn't believe that the Lady of Earth didn't know how important the Mountain River geographical map was. Not to mention anything else, could the Lady of Earth let go of the trillions of living beings inside? If she could really ignore so many living beings inside, would she still be the goddess that all cultivators would involuntarily worship? However, she clearly knew the importance of the Mountain River geographical map, but she still proposed to give up the two clones at this time. This had already fully shown that the two arrays in front of him were not as simple as they looked. What about the Mountain River geographical map? Although it was just a phantom in front of him, Yang Chun would never believe that it was just a phantom. It was definitely the Lady of Earth who was talking to him directly. Perhaps the real test had just begun. Now, Yang Chun knew very well that no matter which array formation he chose, it would be this scene. This was clearly a trap set up by the Lady of Earth to wait for Yang Chun. Yang Chun did not mention the billions of living beings in the Mountain River geographical map. With just a question, he believed that the Empress would naturally understand his meaning. The Empress fell silent. After a long period of silence, she spoke again. But as soon as she opened her mouth, Yang Chun was shocked again. I'll be the tool spirit of the geographical map. Yang Chun had faced mountains of blades and seas of blood, killed supreme, true immortals, and even became sworn brothers with the Tao ancestor. After finding out the Tao ancestor's identity, he still maintained a brotherly relationship with the Tao ancestor. But when he heard the goddess's answer, he was once again shocked. Yang Chun had been frightened twice by the Lady of Earth. It could be said that in just 2 short encounters, the Lady of Earth had given Yang Chun 2 solid shocks. The Lady of Earth would personally be the artifact spirit. That meant that the Lady of Earth had to give up her supreme dignity, her supreme identity, and her newly recovered body. That was almost equivalent to giving up her life. If the artifact spirit of the Mountain River geographical map was the Lady of Earth, how effective would it be compared to Yang Chen's third essence soul? There was almost no need to ask. It was not a difficult multiple-choice question. As long as he was a cultivator who knew the cultivation level of the Lady of Earth and Yang Chun, he would definitely be able to give the correct answer. However, the more that was the case, the more shocked Yang Chun was. What kind of reason could make the Lady of Earth give up everything and be willing to be the artifact spirit of a junior's Dharma treasure? This time, it was Yang Chen's turn to be silent. Should I take out the 2 spiritual sense avatars? The Lady of Earth also knew that Yang Chun was hesitating. She did not rush him. Instead, she waited quietly for Yang Chun to think. Even you have to do this, goddess. I'm afraid 2 spiritual sense avatars aren't enough for me, right? Yang Chun pondered for a while before asking the goddess's illusory figure. That's right. The Lady of Earth did not have any intention of hiding anything. Of course, the prerequisite was that Yang Chun figure it out himself and asked. Otherwise, she would only tell Yang Chun that she only needed 2 spiritual sense avatars. If Yang Chun could not even think of such a simple logic, there would be no need to test anything. He would directly die in the next operation. Yang Chun was someone who had died once. Speaking of which, he was not afraid of dying again. In particular, he knew very well that even if his main body died, he would not die completely. He had the soul perching pill. Even if he died, he could revive quickly. At the very least, there was still a wisp of spiritual sense seed left in the mortal world. He could cultivate again like brotherly Chung. At most, in a few thousand years, he could still stand here in the immortal world. Not afraid of death didn't mean that Yang Chun would die casually, so there were some things that Yang Chun had to figure out if it was really worth it. Anyway, you have the spiritual sense seed left behind by cultivating the 3 purities secret art. Even if you die, you will be resurrected soon. It will only delay your cultivation time for a few thousand years. Goddess Hutu saw that Yang Chun was not so straightforward, and she persuaded him with some inducements. Why? Yang Chen knew that if he didn't ask, the goddess would definitely not answer. If he nodded immediately without saying anything, he would definitely be able to gain the favor of the Lady of Earth, and she would definitely do her best to serve as the artifact spirit of the mountain river geographical map. The problem was that Yang Chen did not want to lose his life in such a muddle-headed way. The goddess didn't know that Yang Chen had the soul-perching jade, so she didn't know that the price of Yang Chen's death would be lighter than she thought. Perhaps she wanted to test Yang Chen's character through this small test, but Yang Chen didn't know. Because of your appearance, I saw an opportunity to solve my previous mistakes. The Lady of Earth was not pretentious and did not hide anything. She knew very well that when she was willing to do something, the effect was far better than being forced to do it. Previously, the Lady of Earth didn't do enough. Now that she could make up for it, she was the happiest one. However, she wouldn't force Yang Chen to do it. Instead, she patiently told him the truth and persuaded Yang Chen to take the initiative to do it. I took it for granted before. I didn't expect that one day, the demon realm and the monster realm would collapse because the demonic chi and demonic chi were too rich. Yang Chen didn't ask much and just waited for the goddess's answer. The goddess explained everything in detail. It wasn't until I saw that the live soil could absorb the demonic chi and demonic chi to grow that I thought of a way. You have the live soil here, a complete mountain river geographical map, and a complete world. As long as the live soil continues to absorb the demonic chi and demonic chi, one day the area where it grows will completely become a complete monster realm. The goddess was very happy and spoke very attentively. In this way, the three realms will still be the same three realms, and you will also have a complete three realms. Isn't it the best of both worlds? Chapter 2636. Listening to the goddess's simple description, Yang Chen suddenly sighed in his heart. The Lady of Earth was still the same Lady of Earth. Even though she knew that she had done something wrong, she still wanted to correct her mistakes and let the entire three realms operate according to her vision. The goddess was worried about the living beings in the world. She would rather suffer karma, so that the living beings in the world would be less affected by the negative aura and be able to live in a more perfect world. This was the kindness of the Lady of Earth. This was also the reason why the Lady of Earth could be respected by every living being. However, Yang Chen did not think that what the Lady of Earth did was necessarily right. The idea was good, and the starting point was also good. This kind of great sentiment of taking charge of the lives of all living beings in the world was indeed worthy of the admiration of the world. However, Yang Chen did not approve of it. It was like a parent who spoiled his child endlessly. He had to pay attention to the growth of his child at all times, for fear that there would be any problems in the process of his growth. Then, he would solve the difficulties that might cause the child setbacks in advance, thinking that he had created a perfect environment for the child, which was more conducive to the child's growth. However, Yang Chen felt that the Lady of Earth was still wrong in this starting point. The best way to prevent a child from drowning was to clear all the swimming places around him so that he would not have the opportunity to swim. The best way was to let him learn how to swim. What made Yang Chen even more unable to agree was that the Lady of Earth took it for granted. Apart from a few people who knew about her efforts without asking for anything in return, no living beings in the three realms knew about what the Lady of Earth had done. What was even more chilling was that, including the previous Yang Chen, all creatures took these as a matter of course. That's how it is, isn't it? Goddess, do you think that relying on the living soil can really solve all these problems? Yang Chen did not directly question the Lady of Earth's intentions. He had also enjoyed these benefits, so there was no reason for him to question it. Therefore, Yang Chen only asked about the effect. If the living soil is really so useful, why did Gun fail to control the flood? It's better to disperse than to block. Goddess Hutu certainly knew why Gun failed, because King Yu had told all the cultivators the reason with his actions. That was the reason. Then why does Her Highness think that the living soil can completely resolve the demonic chi and demonic chi? Yang Chen continued to ask, if I may offend you, if there comes a day when you reach the limit of the breathing soil, Will you be in the same predicament again? The Empress fell silent. Who knows what will happen if it doesn't happen? Was there a limit to the growing soil? If this question was asked to an ordinary cultivator, they would definitely tell him that there was no limit. But when this question was asked to the Empress, the answer was a completely different matter. In fact, the so-called method of the goddess is actually to push back the disaster that is going to happen now for who knows how many years, right? Yang Qin's words reveal the essence of the Lady of Earth's method. At the end of the day, it was better to push it back and not solve it completely. Since I can find you to push back the trouble now, I can definitely find another person to push back the trouble again. Even in the face of the Lady of Earth, Yang Chun was not completely afraid to speak. It was one thing to respect and admire her, but another to argue for what was right. That's what you think, right? The Lady of Earth was still silent. Yang Qin had already revealed her plan, so she had nothing to say. Even if your method works, the new space created by the living soil also has a very strong demonic qi and demonic qi. What should we do? Yang Chun continued to ask a question that he already knew the answer to. Of course, it will be placed in the mountain river geographical map, and I will personally refine it into a space of the immortal realm. The Empress did not know what Yang Chun meant. She was very surprised by his question and quickly replied, "The living beings in the mountain river geographical map are innocent. Why should they sacrifice themselves to help the three realms?" That was actually something that Yang Chun had never been able to figure out. Logically speaking, since the Lady of Earth could be so compassionate, she should not favor one over the other. However, that was not the case. The living beings of the demon world and the demon world were too miserable. There will always be living beings who have to sacrifice themselves. The goddess's voice was a little soft this time, as if she did not have much confidence. Did the goddess give them a choice? Yang Qin's question followed immediately, as if he did not give the goddess any time to think. In fact, Yang Chun was still very dissatisfied with the Empress. "Goddess, you have great sentiments and are willing to sacrifice yourself to help all living beings in the world. You can, but you can't sacrifice the well-being of some living beings to help others." If those sacrifices were voluntary, Yang Chun would not say a word and would only respect them. However, the reality was not the case because the goddess had never given them a choice. The Lady of Earth was completely speechless. She could no longer answer Yang Chen's question. It was not that she did not have an answer, but that she could not say the answer based on what she had done. The Lady of Earth let out a long sigh and stopped dwelling on this question. Instead, she asked Yang Chun, "I just want to ask you now. If I ask you to do this, will you do it?" "No." Yang Chun shook his head and answered firmly, "They aren't my sons, and I don't owe them anything. Why should I sacrifice my life to help them? If their character is really worth it, then they should kill themselves so that they don't drag others down with them. What if I use the lives of your wives and concubines to force you to do that?" The goddess seemed to know Yang Chen's answer. After pausing for a while, she asked again. Yang Chen's heart sank as he had a bad feeling. Gao Yu and the others had been brought to the Lady of Earth's side from the beginning. From then on, the Lady of Earth had already had such a thought. If Yang Chun did not agree, she would probably use the lives of Gao Yu and the others to force him to do something he did not want to do. "I will do it. I could die for them." Yang Chun did not hide his true feelings or even his thoughts. He replied rudely, "But when I come back, I will destroy you and the world you protect at all costs." Sigh. The Lady of Earth let out a long sigh again and said unwillingly, "Do you think I'll give you a chance to come back and destroy everything?" That was the truth. You still had a chance to think. Some small fries might make such a mistake. How could the goddess still be so naive after experiencing such a blow? "Then I'll destroy this world now." Yang Chen did not care about the Lady of Earth's threat at all and replied sternly. Chapter 2637. If there was a reverse scale for Yang Chun in this world, it would definitely be Gao Yu. One had to know that Yang Chun had even given up on becoming a disciple of the Tao ancestor for Gao Yu. It could be seen how important Gao Yu was in Yang Chen's heart. In this world, Yang Chun could not care about anyone, but he would only care about Gao Yu. The ones ranked below Gao Yu were naturally the women. They were just lovers and relatives. Even the palace master and the others had to be ranked behind them. As for brotherly Chung, there was no need for Yangchen to worry. It should be the other way around. It should be to see if Yangchen would be used to threaten brotherly Chung. The Lady of Earth actually wanted to use the lives of Gao Yu and the other women to threaten Yangchen for her unknown plan. Yangchen was instantly enraged. The respect he had for the Lady of Earth was thrown to the back of his mind in the blink of an eye. Anyone who dared to attack the women was an enemy. Yangchen knew his limits. With his cultivation level, he was definitely not a match for the Lady of Earth. Therefore, he definitely had no chance to save the women beside the Lady of Earth. Since that was the case, he might as well perish together. Not to mention how high the Lady of Earth cultivation level was. As long as she had not become a saint and entered the saint world, she would not be able to survive after the three realms were destroyed. In just an instant, Yangchen had clearly expressed his attitude. He would not accept threats and began to coerce the Lady of Earth instead. If she gave up, Yangchen would immediately let her leave the geographical map of the mountain river and discuss with brotherly Chung what to do. How dare you? The goddess was furious. She didn't seem to have expected that a junior would be so unappreciative of her kindness. She just wanted him to sacrifice himself to help this world. She did not really want his life. How could he dare to use the destruction of this world to threaten her? If Yangchen did not have the ability to destroy this world, the Lady of Earth would definitely capture Yangchen with a smile and do whatever she wanted. The problem was that Yangchen really had this ability. The Mountain River geographical map absorbed the complete demon realm and demon realm. And Yangchen's third primordial spirit was the spirit of the Mountain River geographical map. Yangchen could control the Mountain River geographical map to explode at any time and anywhere. The demon realm was connected to the mortal realm, and the demon realm was connected to the spiritual realm. Although it had been refined by Yangchen, this connection would not disappear. As long as the demon realm and the demon realm exploded, the mortal world and the spirit realm would not be spared. Under the influence of the demon realm and the demon realm, there was a 90% chance that they would explode. Without the mortal world and the spiritual world, how long could the demon world last? Moreover, even if the explosion of the demon realm and the demon realm couldn't cause the mortal world and the spiritual world to collapse, the demonic chi and demon chi were no longer restrained. Without the isolation of the demon realm and the demon realm, the demonic chi and demon chi that had accumulated for tens of thousands of years would directly sweep through the entire mortal world and the spiritual world. There was only one consequence, and that was the extinction of the living beings in the mortal world. There might be people with high cultivation in the spiritual world who could barely survive, but it would never exceed 1 in 10,000. Even if they survived, they would become creatures like those crazy demon beasts in the demon realm and would no longer have active consciousness. It could be said that the mortal world and the spiritual world would become two dead worlds. For the immortal world, it would also lose its foundation, which was no different from directly destroying the mortal world and the spiritual world. The immortal world could be preserved, but it would also become a lonely world. It seemed that Yangchen could not achieve his goal of destroying the three realms. But don't forget that Yangchen still had the Immortal Beheading Platform. The Immortal Beheading Platform was also a super magic treasure that could connect the three realms. It was personally refined by the Tao ancestor and was a super magic treasure that countless true immortals avoided. If the Immortal Beheading Platform exploded together with the Demon Realm and the Demon Realm, the effect would be the absolute destruction of the mortal world and the spiritual world, and the immortal world would at least be severely damaged. Similarly, the demonic chi and demon chi would also spread throughout the immortal world, and the spiritual veins would be destroyed. Perhaps the direct casualties would not be very big, but the immortal world would become a place not suitable for cultivation. All the cultivators would slowly wait for death to descend in fear. It was just that this process would take thousands of years. This was the worst estimate. If the power of the explosion of the Mountain River geographical map and the Immortal Beheading Platform was enough, it was not impossible for the three realms to be directly destroyed. Yangchen started to prepare. and the Lady of Earth immediately noticed the danger, but she could do nothing about it. No matter how strong her cultivation level was, it was impossible for her to seize control of the mountain river geographical map in an instant. As long as Yang Chen sensed that something was wrong, Yang Chen would detonate the three realms without hesitation. You're not willing to fake your death for the people of the world, but you're willing to drag your women down with you? The Lady of Earth's anger was mixed with a trace of fear. She could not understand Yang Chen's logic at all. What does the people of the world have to do with me? Yang Chen completely ignored the moral kidnapping that used the moral high ground as a starting point. He replied directly, I'm not their father, and I don't owe them anything. Why should I die for them? I won't do it. You've disappointed me. The goddess finally returned to normal and was no longer angry. However, her eyes were filled with regret as she looked at Yang Chen. You too. Yang Chen now completely did not regard the Hooded goddess as the person who needed to be looked up to and respected by himself, but as an equal person who had an equal dialogue. He had the same expression, the same tone, and even the same content as the goddess. I'm very disappointed. The goddess was enraged by Yang Chen's attitude again and questioned Yang Chen crazily. What's there to be disappointed about? I thought that after experiencing a mistake, you would realize the problem and not continue the previous mistake. Yang Chen shook his head regretfully and said, Unfortunately, you're still stubborn. After saying that, Yang Chen did not seem to want to communicate too much and lowered his head. How did the Lady of Earth become such a person? Did she really think that she was so great that she had to put all the living beings in the world on her? Why would the Tao ancestor choose to save such a person? At the thought of the Tao ancestor, Yang Chen suddenly recalled what Brother Li Cheng had said to him before they parted. It's almost destroyed over there. Just let go and do it. What did he mean by almost destroyed? There was clearly nothing here. How could it be destroyed? What did it mean to let go and do it? Yang Chen did not believe that the Tao ancestor did not understand the Lady of Earth's character, nor did he believe that the Tao ancestor's judgment of people would be wrong. In other words, everything just now was just the content of the Lady of Earth's test. No matter what response he made, she only wanted to know what his response was. I'm here to close these two array formations. Yang Chen sighed and said, In that case, I can only use my own method to close the array formation. Chapter 2638. The goddess was already a bit unreasonable here. It was estimated that she was plunged into that kind of feeling of compassion for mankind and couldn't get out. This was a heart devil, and it was a big heart devil. After going back, he would think about how to solve it with brotherly Cheng. Yang Chen could now be sure of one thing. That is, the Lady of Earth would not embarrass Gao Yu for the time being. After all, threats were threats, but as long as he put on this posture of not being threatened, the other party's spiritual power would not be able to do anything. Of course, his own method was the one that Yang Chen thought of at the beginning, using the Immortal beheading blade to forcibly break these two formations. Xiao Tian, get to work. Yang Chen shouted and called Xiao Tian out. This formation was extraordinary, and it was estimated that it might not be able to break it in one or two moves. So, Yang Chen was going to use all his strength this time. Xiao Tian was mobilized here, and Yang Chen himself also took out a rare state. All the 5 elements of the Great Yin and Yang 5-element secret art were pushed to the highest level. Facing the corner of the formation that was close at hand, Yang Chen slashed down heavily. Hey, like a sharp blade inserted into tofu, the edge of the formation was cut by Yang Chen's knife, and there was almost no obstacle. In a flash, the Immortal beheading blade automatically grew longer, and the formation was quickly cut along this gap. As at the beginning, such an operation seemed to have no obstacles, and everything was cut very smoothly. So simple, Yang Chen couldn't believe it for a while. Was this to test Yang Chen's idea? If this was the case, then as long as he asked on the mountain river geographical map, why did he have to make such a big scene? And everyone almost fell out? Half believing and half doubting, Yang Chen pulled back the Immortal beheading blade and was about to make a second attack. Suddenly, he was shocked to find that the formation that had just been cut by his own knife seemed to be completely unharmed at this time and slowly restored to its original state. Yang Chen looked at all this and was stunned. What kind of formation was this? It looked incomparably sturdy on the outside, but it was so sticky on the inside. Even the places that were cut could recover so quickly. So how could this formation be broken? It was no wonder that these two formations have been able to operate safely for countless years. Apart from the reputation of the Lady of Earth, the formation that could rapidly recover was also an extremely important reason. Yang Chen didn't believe it. Was there really an array that the immortal beheading saber couldn't cut open? Once again, Yang Chen slashed down heavily. This time, he used all the power of the immortal beheading platform. The array formation was still like a piece of viscous, transparent jelly. It was easily sliced apart and sliced through. Even when Yang Chen stabbed the immortal slaying platform from one end to the other and enlarged the immortal slaying saber to its limits to separate the two sides of the array formation, Yang Chen still did not feel that the array formation had lost its effectiveness. The devil chi sea was still there, and the thick devil chi did not dissipate because of Yang Chen's actions. This time, Yang Chen was in a dilemma. How could he break such a strange formation? Could it be that he could only follow the method of the Lady of Earth and send his spiritual awareness clone in to control the formation to stop? If this was the case, then what was the point of Yang Chen's resistance? There must be a solution. Yang Chen firmly believed that he could find a solution. However, Yang Chen thought about it. What could break this formation, including the magic weapons on his body? Golden Body Secret Art, Immortal Beheading Saber, Shao Tian had been used. Was there anything else that hadn't been used? Alchemy Furnace? This was unlikely. Although the 3-star Alchemy Furnace had recovered a lot and was almost ready to be used for alchemy, Yang Chen didn't think that the Alchemy Furnace could bring much damage to the formation. In terms of destruction, it should be the Fire Seed. Yes, Yin-Yang Heaven Burning Fire. Yang Chen's mind moved, and 2 small flames appeared entangled on his fingers. Then, Yang Chen put his finger on the edge of the formation and pressed it hard. There was no reaction, at least for now. The formation did not react at all. Yang Chen's physical strength was great, but it was not as sharp as the immortal beheading saber. His fingers could not break the formation at all, let alone send the Yin-Yang Heaven Burning Fire into the formation. But Yang Chen laughed. If someone saw it, they would think that Yang Chen was inexplicable. For no reason, he pressed his fingers on the edge of the formation and laughed so stupidly. He must not be a normal person. Others may feel strange, but Yang Chen was sure that he knew the method needed to break the formation. Just pressing it, Yang Chen had a long-lost familiar feeling. Maybe this was the key to breaking the formation. Yin-Yang Heaven Burning Fire, Yin-Yang Fire Dragon, turned into 2 high-speed, rotating black and white circular saws on the blade of the Immortal Beheading Saber. Yang Chen's Immortal Beheading Saber slashed down again. With just one slash, the formation in front of him, which was responsible for condensing the devil chi, was cut in half. After a slight hissing sound, Yang Chen took back the Immortal Beheading Saber. The formation was still running, but in the middle of the formation that was cut in half, there was a scorched black caused by the high temperature of the Yin-Yang Heaven Burning Fire. This scorched black looked very thin, but it succeeded in preventing the 2 halves of the formation from connecting into one. Changing to a similar place, Yang Chen made another slash. In this way, hundreds of consecutive slashes, this condensing devil chi formation had been completely cut by Yang Chen, divided into thousands of pieces of different sizes. The formation was still running, but it could not be completely integrated together, and the part that was burned by the Yin-Yang Fire Dragon was completely separated. This was not breaking the formation, because the formation was still running, the devil chi was still condensing, and it did not stop because of Yang Chen's actions. Yang Chen didn't seem to care. He went to the side of the second formation and did the same. The formation that condensed the devil chi was indeed more advanced than the previous one. But it was a different path to the same goal. It was just that some different means were used for different auras. Yang Chen did spend more effort than the previous one, which achieved the same effect as the previous one. After this series of actions was done, Yang Chen made a simple calculation. It had almost taken 10 years. There was no way around it. The scope of the formation was too large, just to find a suitable place to give a knife, it would take a lot of time. Moreover, it seemed easy to use the Immortal beheading saber once, but it also consumed a lot of energy, and it would take time for Yang Chun to recover. Finally, all the preparatory work was done. Yang Chun returned to the side of the first formation. After finding the smallest part, Yang Chun rushed to the site. First, he left the sea of demonic qi and rested for a while. Then, he dived into the sea of demonic qi again and reached out to explore the formation. There was a cultivation method. Yang Chun had only cultivated it once at the beginning since his rebirth, and later he did not have the opportunity to cultivate it. But this time, Yang Chun took out the cultivation method again. Chapter 2639. After Yang Chun's rebirth, his mind was full of all kinds of cultivation methods, but he had not cultivated it for a long time, just because there was a kind of cultivation method that was exclusive. That was the foundation cultivation method that old demon Yi told Yang Chun before his death in the previous life. It was with that kind of cultivation method that old demon Yi was able to shake the world in the immortal world. This cultivation method, even until now, Yang Chun does not know the name. It has always been called the nameless cultivation method. It was also this nameless cultivation method that allowed Yang Chun to kill tens of thousands of immortals and absorb the life essence of countless immortals, so that Yang Chun's acquired spirit root 5 elements was full, which later led to a series of follow-up events, such as the Great Yin and Yang 5 Elements Secret Art, and the Great Yin and Yang 5 Elements Flying Sword that Yang Chun cultivated. It can be said that the nameless cultivation method is the foundation cultivation method of Yang Chun. However, the nameless cultivation method has a drawback. That is, it can only be cultivated when there is no spiritual power. Once you start to cultivate with spiritual power, it can no longer play the role of changing the acquired spirit root. It can be said that this kind of cultivation method that can only change the acquired spirit root has no place to use it after starting to cultivate. Yang Chun didn't think of using this nameless cultivation method at all. Before the hundreds of years of searching for the formation inch by inch, he didn't know how many times he had touched the formation and there was no abnormality at all. That is, after bringing the yin-yang heaven-burning fire and touching it, Yang Chun found that his body seemed to have an attraction to the formation. It was not the golden body secret art that Yang Chun is now cultivating, but a spontaneous attraction. Although the time was very short, Yang Chun was still keenly aware that his body produced this kind of attraction, as if he could absorb this formation into his body through the yin-yang heaven-burning fire. That feeling was very familiar. It was clearly the feeling of absorbing the life essence of the immortals in the immortal executioner stage. In the next division of the formation, Yang Chun also used the nameless cultivation method to carefully test it. The formation could be absorbed by Yang Chun after burning it through the yin-yang heaven-burning fire. This time, Yang Chun's heart was at ease, and he finished all the preparations, and then found the smallest formation and began to absorb it. The nameless divine art quickly operated, and the yin-yang fire dragon turned into a coiled tube, directly inserted into the formation that had been divided. A huge suction force came from Yang Chun's body, and the jelly-like substance inside the array quickly flowed through the tube formed by the yin-yang fire dragon and into Yang Chun's body. The warm flow entered Yang Chun's body, making him feel very comfortable. This wasn't anything. It was just pure life essence, and it wouldn't do any harm to Yang Chun's body at all. Yang Chun didn't know how this formation was set up, but it must have involved the lives of many living beings. Perhaps the Lady of Earth had also sought the consent of those materials when she set it up. No wonder people had to be sacrificed at every turn. It turned out that this formation was like this from the beginning to the end. Now Yang Chun's body was already the real body of a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. He only needed the last step of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Tribulation to become the body of a true immortal. After the tempering of the Golden Body technique, Yang Chun's body was at least 100 times stronger than that of an ordinary Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, and it was even comparable to the physical strength of an ordinary early-stage true immortal. The life essence was constantly replenished into Yang Chun's body, and the first thing to make up for Yang Chun's physical injuries in the process of cultivation. No matter how powerful Yang Chun was and how high his cultivation was, there would inevitably be some subtle injuries in his body. Yang Chun could completely detect these subtle injuries through the 8-revolution internal inspection fluid, and he could also use his spiritual power to repair most of them. But there was still a small part that could not be repaired. Now, these subtle injuries that could not be repaired before were filled by the life essence. Regardless of the size of the injuries, they were all repaired by the life essence, as if there had never been any injuries. Yang Chun was directly immersed in this comfortable feeling of repair. It was so comfortable that it made him want to sleep. After all, Yang Chun had not slept for many years, and he completely relied on running martial arts to rest. However, Yang Chun did not forget to pay attention to the changes in the formation. Soon, Yang Chun found that the small part of the formation that he absorbed was constantly shrinking, and after it was reduced, it did not recover, which had clearly shown that it was absorbed by Yang Chun. Unexpectedly, the formation was still running, and it did not stop at all because Yang Chun had absorbed a small part of the formation. The formation of Goddess Hoodoo was really extraordinary, and Yang Chun could not figure out the principle of the formation until now. The power of the formation did not prevent Yang Chun from absorbing the life essence crazily. With such a good opportunity, Yang Chun would not give up. Soon, half of the formation was absorbed by Yang Chun, and the extremely subtle injuries in Yang Chun's body were basically healed. He gave Yang Chun such a huge gift as soon as he came up. Yang Chun really felt ashamed to accept it. However, Yang Chun was not hypocritical to the point of not accepting it, and continued to absorb it. With so much life essence and the pure essence of the immortal world, Yang Chun chose to use it to temper his body. He activated the Golden Body incantation, and the 3rd level of Kwa Yi's secret technique circulated crazily, sending the essence to every part of his body, strengthening every inch of his bones and muscles. Unknowingly, Yang Chun's body improved again under the endless supply of this essence. While he was enjoying himself, the supply of life essence suddenly stopped. Yang Chun opened his eyes and saw that the small piece of formation had been absorbed by Yang Chun. After changing places, the yin-yang fire dragon inserted the tube into another formation and continued to absorb the life essence crazily. Kwa Yi's secret technique was indeed worthy of its reputation. It kept refining the essence and transforming it into the strength of Yang Chun's body. Yang Chun could even feel that his body refining technique had improved by leaps and bounds. Kwa Yi's secret technique's 3rd level early stage, middle stage, late stage, peak stage. In just a few decades, as Yang Chun absorbed more and more formation, Yang Chun's body refining technique was also constantly improving, and he was about to reach the peak of the 3rd level of Kwa Yi's secret technique. This was entirely because of the life essence. Yang Chun was simply surprised. If he wanted to reach this realm according to the normal cultivation speed, it would take at least 10,000 years. Unexpectedly, in just a few decades, Yang Chun had reached such a level. Now, Yang Chun's body was no worse than those ordinary experts at the late stage of infinitely tribulation true immortal. This was the power of Kwa Yi's secret technique. As for the strength, Yang Chun had no way to estimate it. Unless the giant koan directly pressed on him, perhaps it could make Yang Chun feel a little pressure. Chapter 2640. The body refining technique had reached the peak of Kwa Yi's secret cultivation method, and there was no way to improve it. Yang Chun finally stopped absorbing the formation temporarily. At this point, when Yang Chun looked again, he was surprised to find that almost 1/3 of the formation had been absorbed by him. It had to be said that although the life essence was very powerful, Yang Chun's body refining technique was also strong enough, and the consumption was definitely not low. It was a miracle that only 2/3 of the formation was left, and it was still running. What was more amazing was that Yang Chun did not absorb it one by one, but absorbed it one by one. The whole formation was now in a fragmented state, but it could still run. The things produced by Goddess Hoodoo were really extraordinary. Yang Chun naturally would not leave the rest, and he still absorbed it madly. As for what to use it for, since the body refining technique had been cultivated to the peak, Yang Chun did not care about the body refining technique and began to refine it with the golden body secret art. Life essence and spiritual power seemed to be two different things, but Yang Chun was not afraid. He directly began to use his own golden merit and integrated these life essences into his golden body secret art with the merit manual. Something unexpected happened. Yang Chen's golden body secret art, spiritual power cultivation, began to improve crazily in the process of life essence being transformed by the merit manual. In Yang Chen's mind, except for Tian Yuan pill and some limited dragon yuan, Yang Chun had never heard of anything that could directly improve spiritual power cultivation. Many alchemists refine medicinal pills that could only replenish the lost spiritual power, but could not improve the cultivation realm. But now, this incredible thing actually happened. Perhaps the merit manual played a great role in it. Yang Chun was not sure, because when he cultivated the golden body secret art before, it was not that he did not use the merit manual, but at that time it was only to stabilize the golden body secret art, and there was no such effect of quickly improving cultivation. In this case, it was certain that the life essence must have played an unobtainable role in it. From early stage of Almighty Immortal, middle stage of Almighty Immortal, all the way to late stage of Almighty Immortal, Yang Chun stopped because he could no longer absorb any life essence from the formation. At this moment, the formation for condensing devil chi was just an empty shell. The formation had completely stopped working and was no longer effective. The condensed sea of fiend chi began to boil crazily. Countless wisps of black smoke condensed into a black pillar of smoke that stretched for thousands of miles, rising straight into the sky. This scene could probably be seen clearly from hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. It would not take long for other cultivators to notice what was happening here. Soon enough, some cultivators would come over to investigate what was happening. Yang Chun had to hurry up with the second array formation. Fortunately, Yang Chun knew the trick. Anyway, all the formations had been divided by Yang Chun. This time, Yang Chun did not look for any large or small pieces, and directly found the center of the formation for condensing demon chi. Regardless of anything, he inserted the tube formed by the yin-yang fire dragon and continued to absorb the life essence using the nameless divine skill. The two formations were different routes to the same end, but one targeted devil chi and the other targeted demon chi. There was not much difference, and Yang Chun was able to continue to absorb the life essence. From the late stage of Almighty Immortal to the peak of Almighty Immortal, the spiritual power required was almost more than the sum of the early stage to the late stage. Yang Chun paid attention to the surrounding movements while seizing the time to absorb the essence in the formation. As Yang Chun expected, the strange phenomenon caused by the evaporation of the sea of fiend chi did attract the attention of cultivators. At least, Yang Chun could detect at least hundreds of cultivators coming to the surroundings. There was even a fierce battle in the periphery. Yang Chun did not care who was fighting. The good things here had not been collected yet, so how could he care about the outside? The evaporation of the sea of fiend chi did not last too long. The sea of fiend chi, with a radius of thousands of miles, only lasted for a few days. All the sea of fiend chi was completely turned into devil chi and then evenly distributed throughout the immortal realm. Although the sea of fiend chi was thousands of miles wide, it was scattered throughout the vast immortal realm. For the cultivators in the immortal realm, it basically had little impact. At best, it was a little uncomfortable. However, at most, everyone thought that the weather was not right. Not many people would think that this was the beginning of the deterioration of the cultivation environment in the future. After the guys in the periphery fought for a while, some people began to explore the bottom of the sea of demon chi. The formation was so big that it was naturally discovered, and then those cultivators began to investigate and crack the formation, just like what Yang Chun had done before. However, Yang Chun could not be bothered with those fellows. The formation was very big, and Yang Chun had hidden himself very well. As long as they did not find Yang Chun would not take action. Those fellows could do whatever they wanted. At any rate, Given enough time, Yang Chun would be able to completely absorb the magic array. To Yang Chen's surprise, those cultivators quickly stopped, and a large number of them retreated. They left a few cultivators behind to keep watch. After that, there was no more movement from them. Perhaps they had discovered that there was no way to find a gap in the magic array and decided to give up? Without disturbing Yang Chun continued to absorb the magic array to improve his cultivation base with a peace of mind. Yang Chen's golden merit points were being consumed at a rapid rate. If Long Xian were there, he would have noticed that the words on the merit steel were disappearing bit by bit. By now, 1/4 of them had already disappeared. Time flew, and Yang Chen's cultivation base finally broke through the pinnacle of the Zenith Golden Immortal stage, stepping into the perfect Golden Immortal stage. Thankfully, Yang Chen was prepared for this. He forcibly suppressed his cultivation base and did not trigger his heavenly tribulation. Yang Chun had done this countless times in the Immortal Plane. Thus, he was very familiar with it. Thus, he did not alarm the cultivators who stayed behind. It was unknown if it was just a misconception on Yang Chen's part. This second magic array should have been of a higher grade and sturdier than the first magic array. Logically speaking, it should have taken longer to absorb the magic array. However, Yang Chun found that his rate of absorption was much faster compared to the first magic array. Perhaps it was due to the increase in his cultivation base, but Yang Chun did not think too much about it. Instead, he continued to do his best to absorb the magic array. Soon, the second magic array was about to reach the bottom under Yang Chen's absorption. At this time, Yang Chun discovered that the magic array's absorption speed was not due to the improvement of his cultivation base. Perhaps it had something to do with it, but the bigger reason was that there were others who were doing the same thing. Like Yang Chun, they were also absorbing the magic array's life essence. This time, Yang Chun was surprised. There was only one big piece of the magic array left, but he found that there was a little guy who was fighting with him. How could this be? Yang Chun hid well and was not discovered by others. The little guy opposite him had a low cultivation base, but he had just entered the Zenith Golden Immortal stage. Perhaps he had entered recently. He was absorbing the magic array with relish and did not notice that Yang Chun had discovered him. Chapter 26:41. There was actually a pier. Yang Chun was also surprised. It must be known that Yang Chen's absorption method was passed down from Old Devil Yi, and it was successful with the help of the power of the yin-yang heaven-burning fire. What did the little guy rely on? However, now was not the time to find the answer. There was only so much life essence in the array. If Yang Chun wasted time, he was afraid that the little guy would grab more. It must be known that this was a rare good thing in the three realms that could directly improve the cultivation base. Yang Chun was reluctant to share with others. Under the efforts of the two people, the second array formation's absorption speed was a bit faster. It didn't take long for there to be only the last array formation left. At this time, Yang Chen's figure could no longer be hidden and was discovered by several cultivators around him. Looking at the cultivators who surrounded him from several directions, Yang Chun calmly put away the yin-yang heaven-burning fire and slowly stood up. He did not have the appearance of those guys who were facing a great enemy. Several cultivators were indeed very nervous. In an environment where they thought that there was absolutely no one to disturb them, a cultivator actually appeared silently. How could it not be frightening? Fortunately, although a few people were surprised, they were still mentally prepared after all. They were able to find this place because the first array formation was absorbed by Yang Chun, causing the devil chi to evaporate. This had already clearly shown that there must be a cultivator here. It was just that they searched the entire area at first and didn't find a figure. Later, no one else appeared. It didn't mean that there was no one. Now, the person took the initiative to show up, so it was their turn to be nervous. To be able to escape their detection so quietly, there must be some means. What was the purpose of the other party's appearance? Everyone was guessing until they saw the face of Yang Chun. It's Yang Chun. These cultivators recognized Yang Chen's identity in the shortest time, and then, without saying anything, launched an attack. 4 Infinite Tribulation True Immortals and 4 Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals, a team of 8 experts, fought against Yang Chun, a new Infinite Tribulation True Immortal. Moreover, It was obvious that he had not crossed the heavenly tribulation yet and was suppressing his cultivation. If he did not want to trigger the heavenly tribulation in the fight, perhaps Yangchun could only suppress his cultivation to fight against them. The 8 experts all felt that this was a great opportunity. Their respective natal magic weapons rushed towards Yangchun. As long as a cultivator had been in the immortal world for a while, they would know that Grandmaster Yangchun was a wandering treasure trove no matter where he went. As long as they could kill him, it would mean a huge amount of wealth. At the same time, from their standpoint, it was also an indescribably huge contribution. It was true that Yangchun could not use the power of an innumerable tribulation true immortal. Otherwise, he would immediately trigger the heavenly tribulation. He was not afraid that he could not pass the heavenly tribulation, but he did not want to fight during the process. In addition, he was very curious about the little guy who could snatch food from him. Yangchun was very curious. Once the heavenly tribulation was triggered, the little guy would definitely die. Bang, bang, bang. A few low sounds sounded one after another around Yangchun, and several offensive magic weapons fell directly on his Tai Chi golden ball. At the same time, Yangchun's hands had already grasped a magic weapon, and he didn't even think about it before squeezing it hard. The 2 cultivators began to vomit blood while trembling in pain. The 2 infinite tribulation true immortals could not believe what was happening in front of them. They were late-stage infinite tribulation true immortals, whose cultivation was many times higher than that of Yangchun. However, their natal magic weapons could not even withstand a pinch from Yangchun, because Yangchun's cultivation had suddenly increased rapidly in a short time, and he did not have the experience of fighting and cultivating as an infinite tribulation true immortal in his previous life. Yangchun was still a little unfamiliar with his own body and strength. In addition, the physical strength of the peak of the 3rd level of Kwa Yi's secret skill made Yangchun feel more and more unfamiliar. He even doubted whether he could destroy more than half of the formation by raising his hand. This was also the reason why he chose to stand still and take the attacks from the 8 masters. The improvement of his cultivation had increased the power of the Tai Chi golden ball by hundreds of times. The peak of the 3rd level of Kwa Yi's secret skill also gave Yangchun an indescribably strong defensive power, so he did not have to worry that the opponents could hurt him. At present, this was the only way he could find a chance to catch 2 opponents when their natal magic weapons attacked him. Destroying the opponent's natal magic weapons meant severely injuring at least 2 of their masters. While fighting, Yangchun also needed to familiarize himself with his current realm. A brand new realm, a brand new understanding. Yangchun had to admit that the realm of infinite tribulation true immortal was really comfortable. Many things that he could think of but could not do in the past could be easily done now. This was a kind of enjoyment even in the process of fighting. As Yangchun became more and more comfortable with his current cultivation and body, the 8 practitioners who attacked him were unlucky. 3 of them were seriously injured by Yangchun because their natal magic weapons were destroyed by Yangchun. 2 of them were smashed into meat paste by Yangchun's fists, and the remaining 3 were cleanly cut into 6 pieces by the immortal beheading saber. The 3 seriously injured guys turned around and fled without thinking. In the eyes of some practitioners, it was not a shameful thing to run away if they could not win. Smart people could live longer. While running away, they did not forget to take the little guy they needed to protect, the little guy who had just been promoted to Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal not long ago. Run! The speed and passion they displayed while running for their lives were unimaginable. Even though the 3 experts were seriously injured, they still had the strength of infinite tribulation true immortals. They had to take the little guy of Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal away, because he was extremely important to them. Chi, chi, chi. 3 indistinct sounds rang out from the bodies of the 3 experts. The 3 of them did not seem to have expected that the little fellow they had been protecting, whom they had always thought to be one of their own, would make a move against them. Furthermore, it was in such a situation where they wanted to escape with him at all costs. Was he not afraid that Yangchun would kill him directly? Or did he want it effect to Yangchun in this situation? However, all this had nothing to do with them. The little guy's sneak attack was very accurate. The flying sword, which seemed almost worthless to them, directly penetrated their heads and hearts. Even if their cultivation was twice as strong, they would not be able to survive, not to mention that their natal magic weapons had just been destroyed and their sea of consciousness had been injured. In the blink of an eye, the three of them could not be more dead. Senior, maybe you can't remember who I am, but I have received your kindness, so I want to repay you. The little guy faced Yang Chun, who was slowly walking over, without the slightest panic on his face, but said to Yang Chun. Chapter 2642. There was already a smile on Yang Chun's face at this moment. Of course, he recognized the little guy in front of him. In a memory of his previous life, apart from his unforgettable lover, Gao Yu, and several unforgettable enemies of the Shintian sect, this person left the deepest impression on him. Old Demon E, the guy who told Yang Chun the nameless cultivation method before he died, appeared alive in front of Yang Chun at this moment. It was obvious that Old Demon E was no longer the Old Demon E from his previous life, who had terrorized the entire immortal realm and struck fear into the hearts of countless cultivators. He was still a very young rookie who had just ascended to the immortal realm not long ago. It was about time. Old Demon, he should have ascended a few hundred years ago. However, his cultivation rose a little too fast, but as long as he directly jumped from the almighty immortal to the innumerable tribulation true immortal, looking at the formation that had been absorbed with only a trace left, Yang Chun also knew how Old Demon Yi's cultivation came from. Damn, this old guy must have hidden something before he died. Yang Chun could be sure of this. Otherwise, Yang Chun himself would have to rely on the Yin-Yang heaven-burning fire to be able to absorb the life essence in the formation. But Old Demon E had nothing. He could do this by relying on his own body, which obviously had a direct relationship with the cultivation method. This old guy was really cunning. Even before he died, he had to hide something. No wonder he could be so popular. If it weren't for the fact that he had killed too many people when he cultivated the nameless cultivation method in the mortal world to improve his acquired spiritual root in his previous life, and then continued to kill countless people in the spiritual world and the immortal world, maybe not many people would know the name of Old Demon E. Obviously, with the help of Yang Chun in this life, he achieved his goal of reducing the bloody massacre in the mortal world. Based on Old Devil Yi's character, he would never allow himself to become the target of public criticism. Hence, he must have been cultivating quietly and ascending to the immortal realm quietly. This guy still had the temper of his previous life. He just used the word senior in his words, and then called him you and me. There was no sense of respect in his bones at all. It could be seen that his character was usually an unruly guy. However, it was rare for him to call him senior. At least Yang Chun was very satisfied. This guy had never done this in his previous life. The only thing that Yang Chun was curious about was which sect Old Demon E was from now. I remember you. Yang Chun smiled at Old Demon E. Of course, there was also a point in this smile that Old Demon E was actually a guy who knew how to repay kindness. Your surname is E. Sorry, I don't remember your name, in fact. I don't even know your name. When Old Demon Yi's name was Old E, Old Demon Yi's name, Old Sect Old Demon E was the same. Yang Chun had been calling him that. Until now, he still didn't know the name of Old Demon E. In the face of Yang Chun's answer, Old Demon E stared at Yang Chun in disbelief. He didn't expect Yang Chun to remember such an insignificant person like him. Compared with Yang Chun's illustrious reputation, Old Demon E had always felt that he was an insignificant person. From the blink of an eye, Old Demon E recovered. It was not surprising that Yang Chun remembered him. After all, the act of sending tens of thousands of people to him to be killed was too special. It was hard not to remember. He wasn't afraid that Yang Chun had any ulterior motives towards him. Just the fact that he sent people to him to be killed was already a great kindness. Old Demon E knew very well how much help Yang Chun had given him. If he could get the same effect on the battlefield or elsewhere, he would have to kill at least millions of mortals. This number was dozens of times more than what Old Demon E had killed in his previous life. Of course, Old Demon E himself didn't know this. But he knew that Yang Chun didn't let him bear the reputation of a homicidal maniac and achieve his goal. This was a great kindness. "My name is Yi Chun." Old Demon, Yi said his name, and then said to Yang Chun happily, "I'm sure I can repay your kindness. I'm actually a member of the Zhao family now, and you must want to get rid of the Zhao family in one fell swoop." Yang Chen's expression immediately became interesting. It was really surprising that Old Demon had become a member of the Zhao family. "You saw the method of absorbing the life essence in this place from me, right?" Old Demon, he asked Yang Chen another question, because he knew that in this world, apart from his family, there was no other cultivation method that could achieve this. "You still need to use some other things to assist you, right?" Yang Chen nodded. He didn't want to admit that he learned the cultivation method from Old Demon E in his previous life, so this was the best explanation. It was something that Old Demon E had learned during his own cultivation, and no one could say anything wrong about it. Although he was suspected of secretly learning other people's secret manuals, Yang Chun still gave him great compensation. Moreover, what he learned was not complete. "Don't worry, I won't ask you for anything." Old Demon E said with a smile, "What I get from you is far more than what I give. I don't have any other good points, but I know that I must repay kindness." In this regard, Yang Chen felt that this guy was quite likable. At least he knew what he wanted to do. "You want to get rid of the Zhao family. You want to get rid of the Mystic Heaven sect. I know all of this." Old Demon, he looked at Yang Chen as if he wanted to see some panic on his face. But Old Demon, he was disappointed. The smile on Yang Chen's face never changed. It was no secret that Yang Chen wanted to get rid of the Zhao family. It wasn't difficult for Old Demon E to guess that Yang Chen wanted to deal with the Mystic Heaven sect. At that time, where did the tens of thousands of cultivators come from for Old Demon E to kill one by one? As long as he carefully analyzed the situation, it wasn't difficult to figure out where the cultivators he killed came from. "In fact, I've always known that you were the one who did everything." Old Demon, he said to Yang Chen again, "I admire you very much. If it were me, I wouldn't have the courage and means to mess up the Mystic Heaven sect and the Zhao family like this." As long as he knew that Yang Chen wanted to deal with the Zhao family and the Mystic Heaven sect, then looking at the current situation of the Zhao family and the Mystic Heaven sect, he knew how successful Yang Chen was. Old Demon, he had no intention of hiding it at all and revealed his thoughts. Perhaps it was because he hadn't had someone to talk to for a long time. Old Demon, he seemed very excited. Yang Chen completely objected to Old Demon, he saying that if it were him, he wouldn't have the courage and means. In his previous life, although Old Demon, he was forced to take that step, his courage and means were definitely not inferior to Yang Chen's. Perhaps his means were a little inferior, but his courage was definitely much better. "The Zhao family is now using my power to complete the divine realm." Old Demon, he finally said the most important thing that Yang Chen wanted to know the most. "At the same time, I can also deal a fatal blow to the Mystic Heaven sect. I think I can help you do what you want, and then we don't owe each other anything." Chapter 2643. Yang Chen only dared to believe half of Old Demon Yi's words. In his previous life, Old Demon, he had never been known to have a good reputation. Now he was putting on a show of gratitude. Who knew if Old Demon, he was just putting on a false front after assessing the situation and realizing that there was no way he could escape? It was very possible. 4 Zenith Heaven Golden Immortals and 4 Tribulation True Immortals were slaughtered like chickens in front of Yang Chen. If Old Demon, he still couldn't see it, then he was really too blind. I know you may not believe this, but I will prove it. Seeing that Yang Chen didn't respond for a while, Old Demon, he suddenly said with a smile, "The Zhao family's destruction is inevitable. I'm not a fool. I won't be tied to them." "How do you know that the Zhao family can't save them?" Yang Chen asked. If Old Demon, he had really seen through this, he wouldn't have insisted on this matter. After all, being tied to the Zhao family meant dying together. With Old Demon Yi's intelligence, he would never follow the Zhao family wholeheartedly. Did loyalty mean anything to Old Demon Yi? "Don't think I don't know what this place is." Old Demon Yi replied with a smile. The palace of Goddess Huto suddenly turned into such 2 formations. I think I know where the devil chi and monster chi in the demon realm and the monster realm come from. Since Master Yang has been here for many years, it means that at least Goddess Hutu is on your side, or she was killed by you on the Immortal beheading platform, so you know a lot of secrets. Old Demon, he was not afraid to show his intelligence in front of Yang Chun. The smarter he showed, the more Yang Chun would believe that he wouldn't be on the Zhao family's side. It's not a coincidence that the demon realm and the monster realm fell into your hands. Two complete worlds fell into your hands. How can you call yourself the God realm with the help of the Immortal realm? Hearing that Old Demon, he said that Goddess Hutu was on his side, Yang Chun really felt a little bitter. He had probably offended Goddess Hutu badly now. Although Goddess Hutu didn't stop him all these years, it was probably because of Brother Li Cheng's suppression. Anyway, he would suffer when he went back. Unfortunately, he couldn't tell Old Demon E about this. I like smart people like you. Yang Chun now truly believed that Old Demon, he wouldn't stand on the Zhao family's side. He was truly a smart person. Yang Chun admired him very much. I also like how you're grateful. Deal. Help me deal with the mysterious Heaven sect and the Zhao family, and we won't owe each other anything. I'm sure you already know that the Zhao family is plotting against the God realm. Old Demon, he wasn't one to procrastinate. When he heard Yang Chun say that it was a deal, he merely nodded and began to explain, even I don't know the general location of the Immortal realm. However, my cultivation technique can make the God world more stable and speed up the process of the God world becoming a world of its own. Yang Chun didn't want to ask Old Demon what kind of cultivation method he used to achieve this. Even if he asked, Old Demon, he might not answer. All he wanted to know was how Old Demon, he was going to complete the deal. To put it bluntly, Old Demon, he wanted to repay a debt of gratitude, but he had been unable to do so. This was also one of his inner demons. This condition was good for both Yang Chun and Old Demon E. One solved a huge problem, and the other solved a hidden inner demon. It was a win-win situation. If there was a Koan Peng, it would be easier to stabilize the God realm. Old Demon E continued. Originally, the Zhao family had already found out about the whereabouts of a Koan Peng by chance. I didn't expect you to beat them to it. It can be said that you're clearly the Zhao family's natural nemesis in many things. You can always grasp the Zhao family's weakness in advance, and you also learned many secrets in the Immortal slaying platform that even the current Jade Emperor doesn't know. Old Demon, he seemed to be afraid that Yang Chun would doubt him, so he completely revealed his thoughts and dispelled his worries. It's the same in the mortal world, the spiritual world, and the immortal world. The Koan Peng was one step ahead of them, and the formation on Goddess Hutu's side was the same. Even I, whom they thought was their life-saving straw, was planted in the mortal world by you. When you knew that you were going to face such an enemy, what did you think? Old Demon, he wasn't afraid of praising Yang Chun in front of Yang Chun, nor was he worried that Yang Chun would misunderstand that he was flattering him. He just said what he felt in his heart. My first thought was fear, especially when I saw your portrait and recognized that you were the benefactor who nurtured me in the mortal world. At that time, I didn't want to repay your kindness, but I was afraid. Old Demon, he wasn't exaggerating. He was really afraid, especially after a smart guy like him deduced from the clues that Yang Chun was the real culprit who almost destroyed the Mystic Heaven sect. This feeling made him shudder. Even when he was won over by the Zhao family and worked for the Zhao family, he had always felt this way. Was it worth it to be an enemy of Yang Chun? Therefore, even though everyone had reached a consensus, Old Demon, he still took the trouble to express his feelings to Yang Chun. After you come here to improve your cultivation, will you go back to consolidate the immortal realm? Yang Chun smiled and didn't blame Old Demon E for being careful. Although this guy had always been careful, he only called him Senior once and Master Yang once. The rest of the time, he called him Senior and Master Yang. He was still the arrogant and unruly guy in his bones. Yes. Old Demon, he looked at the depleted formation and said with a little regret, it's a pity that it didn't improve much. If you trust me, I can use some other means to help. Yang Chun didn't waste any more time and directly took out the 3-star alchemy furnace. This is the alchemy furnace personally refined by the 3 stars of Fulu and show. I can use it to refine you. It's unlikely to directly improve your cultivation, but it can increase your luck by 3 stars and strengthen your muscles and bones. Do you want to try? Neza and Yang Jian have both been refined inside and have benefited a lot. If he still had some concerns about letting Old Demon, he take the initiative to enter the 3-star alchemy furnace. Then Yang Chen's last sentence was the straw that broke the camel's back. Who were Neza and Yang Jian? Old Demon, he knew very well that they had all been refined inside. So it wasn't just Goddess Hoodoo who stood on Yang Chen's side. Others might not believe Yang Chen's words, but Old Demon, he knew very well that the golden wishful pagoda was snatched by Yang Chen. It would be strange if Neza didn't cooperate with him. No wonder he heard that Yang Chen had killed at least 100,000 cultivators within 100 years of his ascension. It seemed that Yang Jian and Neza had also contributed a lot. Let me give it a try. Old Demon, he made a prompt decision. If Yang Chen wanted to kill him, he didn't need this alchemy furnace at all. It was purely giving him benefits. How could he miss this opportunity? Chapter 2644. All right, I'll make the preparations. Tell me, how do we deal with the Zhao family and the mysterious heaven sect? Yang Chen nodded. At this point, Yang Chen completely trusted Old Demon E. This fellow was definitely a wily old fox. In his previous life, if it wasn't for the fact that he had a bad reputation since the beginning of his cultivation, he definitely wouldn't have made it to the point where everyone in the immortal world wanted to beat him up. This life was indeed like that. His cultivation was so high. But up until now, the 3 realms had never heard of Old Demon Yi's infamy. He didn't even have a reputation, which showed how smart he was. Someone like Old Demon, he was the real expert in disguising as a pig to eat a tiger. As long as he made a move, his opponent would definitely end up dead. Moreover, it depended on how Old Demon he liked his opponents to die. If such an old devil wanted to deal with the Zhao family and the mysterious heaven sect in secret, Yang Chen could already imagine the tragic state of the mysterious heaven sect and the Zhao family. Without the Kuan Peng, more than half of the formation here has been absorbed. What's left is not enough for me to advance to the level of an innumerable tribulation true immortal. If I make a move, the stabilizing time of the divine realm will increase by at least 10,000 years. Old Demon, he said quickly. He had already felt Yang Chen's trust. If he didn't show it now, when would he? The Zhao family doesn't have that much time. Yang Chen believed that under the pressure of Yang Chen and the other forces, the Zhao family really didn't have 10,000 years to wait for the God world to take shape. The divine world is of utmost importance to the Zhao family. If the divine world is formed, its power will be 100 times stronger than the demon realm and Yao realm combined. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it is comparable to the immortal realm. Old Demon, he continued. As long as the immortal realm is formed, not only will the Zhao clan be able to call itself the ruler of the world, but it will also be able to contend with the entire immortal realm. At that time, it won't be a problem for the Zhao clan to dominate the immortal realm, and it won't be impossible for them to refine the 3 realms. Yang Chen also believed that the Zhao family only had one bet left, but as long as this bet was right, then the Zhao family would have a smooth road ahead. This was also why they did not panic when the Devil Realm and the Demon Realm failed one after another. As long as the God Realm was complete, he would be able to have anything he wanted in the future. Everything that he had lost could be regained. The only problem was time. The other parties would not give the Zhao family enough time. It could be said that the Zhao clan and the other parties were competing for time. Whoever got the first one would have the absolute advantage. Now that the Zhao family has been forced to a dead end, even with my cooperation, they will have to take a risk. Old Demon, he finally brought out what he wanted to say. If you want to quickly form the immortal realm, there's one more thing that can help. What is it? Yang Chen asked. If Old Devil, he could say something like that, then it must be something very important. Actually, there's a half-world in the immortal world. Old Demon, he finally saw something that even Yang Chen didn't know. He couldn't help but laugh. If the 2.5 realms can be combined and refined, the immortal realm will take shape in the shortest time possible. The fastest time. Yang Chen was not afraid that there was something that could help form the divine realm. He only cared about time. So the first question he asked was about time. Within 1,000 years, old demon Yi answered with certainty. Yes. Yang Chen gasped. If the Zhao family's immortal realm took shape within 1,000 years, then it would be a disaster for the immortal world. At this time, Yang Chen finally couldn't help but ask about the crucial half-world. Where is that half-world? The capital of the heavenly court. Old demon, who was enjoying Yang Chen's expression very much, so he kept answering with a smile. Outer city or inner city? Yang Chen asked anxiously. A half-world was actually hiding in the capital of the heavenly court, and no one had discovered it? What a joke. Inner city. Old demon, he answered calmly. He wanted to see Yang Chen's reaction after knowing the answer. It was going to be very interesting. The inner city was where the residences of the important figures in the imperial city were. There was actually a half-world hidden there. What made Yang Chen even more incredulous was that none of the important figures knew about it. Even Ancestor Liu, Yang Jian, and Jia didn't know about it, let alone the newly ascended Jade Emperor. Was there anything more ridiculous than this? That expert's residence in the inner city? Or the Queen Mother's Jade Pool? Yang Chen asked again. Neither. Old demon, he shook his head. It's somewhere everyone can see. It wasn't the Queen Mother's Jade Pool. It wasn't the official's residence. It seemed like there was only one choice left. How is that possible? Yang Chen really didn't want to say the answer, but old Demon Yi's obvious hint locked onto the answer. The soaring heaven palace of the Golden Arches? Old Demon Yi nodded with a heavy smile. When he first heard this news, he was even more shocked than Yang Chen. That place, how was it possible? Where's the soaring heaven palace of the Golden Arches? Yang Chen's reaction was a bit better than old Demon Yi's. At least this important news only shocked Yang Chen for a bit before he started asking for details. It's not the soaring heaven palace of the Golden Arches. Old Demon, he smiled bitterly. It's the soaring heaven palace of the Golden Arches, the soaring heaven palace itself. Yang Chen was completely stunned. Who would have thought that the soaring heaven king palace that even Yang Chen had entered a few times was actually a half-world? Among those who were qualified to enter the soaring heaven king palace, which of them would place their thoughts on the soaring heaven king palace itself? Even if he paid more attention to it, he would at most think that the soaring heaven king palace was a cave abode of the highest grade that had been refined. This was where the Jade Emperor discussed matters. So what if it was a cave abode of the highest grade? However, who would have thought that the soaring heaven king palace was actually a half-world? If he could absorb and refine the soaring heaven king palace, the realm of gods could almost instantly become an independent world. Moreover, it would be connected to the celestial world through the soaring heaven king palace. By then, controlling the celestial world would definitely not be a joke. It was no wonder that Zhao family didn't treat soaring heaven king palace as their target. This target was too obvious. How many people saw it every day? Anyone who dared to go in and out of this place would be courting death. In the past, the Zhao clan sought stability and acted in the dark. Of course, they wouldn't think of such a devious idea. Now that the Zhao clan was being forced into a desperate situation by Yang Chen step by step, it seemed like they could only set their sights on the soaring heaven king palace. Anyway, at most, they would suffer a greater loss. As long as they succeeded in the end, they could recover no matter how great the loss was. The Zhao clan will refine the soaring heaven king palace at all costs. Old Demon, he finally revealed his plan. And as the Jade Emperor, he will definitely not allow the soaring heaven king palace to be refined. As long as the important figures of both sides are involved, both sides will be in a dilemma. I will do my best at the beginning, but I will slowly slack off later on and carefully withdraw. Old Demon, he was an idiot. He wouldn't sacrifice himself to repay a debt of gratitude. When both sides can't get rid of it, you or someone else can appear. Then, bam. It's the simplest way to benefit from a fight between a sandpiper and a clam. The Zhao clan and Mystic Heaven sect will be completely annihilated. I'll be free and you'll be successful. How about that? Chapter 2645. When will the Zhao family make a move? How will the Xintian sect fall into the trap? What's the best time to make a move? What's your plan? Yang Chun frowned and asked Old Demon E. That's your problem. Old Demon E took a step back and didn't agree to anything else. I've already thought of this much, and we're even. Any more, and I'll lose myself. That won't do. As expected, Old Demon E was still the same. Even if he agreed to be even, he was only responsible for planning up to this point. He might make a move in the early stages, but he definitely wouldn't make a move in the later stages. Old Demon, he cherishes life like gold. This was the reason why he was able to live to this day, even though he wasn't famous. As for how to trick the Xintian sect, he directly pushed the responsibility to Yang Chun. That was Yang Chen's problem. Even if Yang Chun couldn't do it, Old Demon, he might even turn to the Zhao family at the critical moment based on the development of the situation. If the realm of divinity was successfully formed, the Zhao family's chances of winning would increase greatly. Old Demon, he wouldn't want to face the Zhao family's pursuit in the future. Yang Chun couldn't do anything about this slippery guy. After all, Old Demon, he had turned to his side and given the plan. Whether he could catch him or not depended on whether Yang Chun could successfully push it. In any case, Old Demon, he wouldn't make a move anymore. This guy was so calculative. After thinking about it, Yang Chun didn't force him anymore. Since he had already told him the plan, there was a high chance of success if it was carried out according to the plan. When the time comes, how will you get out? Yang Chun didn't say anything more and just asked this question. Yang Chun's question stunned Old Demon E. He didn't expect Yang Chun to care about his escape plan. This also warmed Old Demon Yi's heart. It's simple. As long as I can slightly refine the Soaring Heaven King Palace, the Zhao family will realize that it doesn't make much of a difference whether they have me or not. At most, they can buy 10 or 20 years. Old Demon E smiled and revealed his retreat plan. He's just an unimportant guy. It'll be easy for me to get out of this. Yang Chun thought about it and agreed. This meant that Old Demon E had indeed thought through the plan thoroughly. Thus, he didn't say anything more and directly instructed, don't absorb the array first. Enter the alchemy furnace. Without saying a word, Old Demon, he jumped right in after Yang Chun took out the 3-star alchemy furnace and enlarged it. According to the method of refining Yang Jian and Neza, Yang Chun threw some rare, medicinal materials into the alchemy furnace, and then began to refine them in reverse with the lowest level of earth fire. Old Demon, he couldn't compare with Yang Jian and Neza. He couldn't bear the yin-yang heaven burning fire. He couldn't even use a high-level fire seed. He could only use the most basic alchemy fire seed. Not to mention Old Demon E, even Yang Jian and Neza couldn't withstand the yin-yang heaven burning fire. This was the perfect yin-yang heaven burning fire, after combining the furnace fire of heaven and earth and the karma fire of all beings. If Yang Chun really wanted to, Yang Jian and Neza would have long been refined into coke. Old Demon, he could now fully experience the benefits of his body being tempered to become more and more resilient. He wasn't Yang Jian and Neza. The physical bodies of those two were already the most powerful in the immortal world. Even if Yang Chun used a secret method to temper them, they could only be a little better. But Old Demon, he was different. He was forcibly promoted to the Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal by the life essence of the array. His physical body hadn't really experienced thousands of years of tempering, so it was far from reaching a strong level. Now, after the 3-star refinement, the toughness of Old Demon Yi's physical body had simply improved by leaps and bounds, directly making a qualitative leap. In just a few years, Old Demon Yi felt as if he had cultivated for hundreds of years, and the toughness of his physical body had directly improved by a big level. With such a strong physical body, it would be much easier to cultivate more advanced magic arts in the future. The few years of refinement alone had saved Old Demon E hundreds of years of tempering his fleshly body. Even though Old Demon E was a person who was good at scheming, when he came out of the 3-star alchemy furnace and felt the state of his body, he couldn't help but feel lucky that he made the right choice at the critical moment. The remaining array is enough for you to promote to the middle stage Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. Yang Chun looked at the last remaining array and had no desire to absorb it, so he simply threw it to Old Demon E. This should make you more valued when you go back. The 8 experts who followed you to protect you are all dead. You know how to make the Zhao family trust you, right? Simple. Old Demon Yi answered very casually to Yang Chun. This really wasn't a big problem for Old Demon Yi. Moreover, the Zhao family needed Old Demon Yi to help them stabilize the immortal realm. As long as Old Demon Yi was still useful, so what if they suspected him? You're on your own. Yang Chun left a word of encouragement for Old Demon Yi, then turned and left. Although the array here was still there, it would disappear in a few years at most. Such a long time was enough for Yang Chun to arrange some other things. As for Old Demon Yi, he believed that he would know what to choose and would never make a wrong decision. Now Yang Chun's headache was how to face the Lady of Earth. This so-called test should have really offended the Lady of Earth. After going back, he didn't know how to deal with it. Fortunately, Brotherly Chung was there. Otherwise, he really didn't know if he would be killed by the Lady of Earth face to face. However, although he was worried, Yang Chun still had to face it. His lovers were all by the Lady of Earth's side, and Yang Chun couldn't avoid it. He could only see if he could persuade the Lady of Earth to give up her unrealistic fantasies. At least so far, the Lady of Earth had not thought about the mountain river geographical map, nor did she take any action. This was barely good news. Yang Chun didn't rush home. He walked at the most ordinary speed along the way, thinking about how to face the Lady of Earth and how to perfect Old Demon Yi's plan. At the same time, he was also getting used to and adapting to the new body refining technique and cultivation realm. It took him a few years just on the road. When Yang Chun had completely adapted to these, Old Demon Yi did not let him down and completely absorbed the last piece of the array. The moment it was absorbed, the demonic chi sea evaporated out of thin air and quickly spread the demonic chi evenly throughout the immortal realm. The influence of devil chi was small, but the demonic chi was different. It also had some influence on the experts of the immortal realm. However, this was the demonic chi that had been accumulated for more than 1,000 years. After more than 1,000 years of accumulation, its concentration was enough to affect the early stage of tribulation true immortal. Although it only made them feel uneasy in their cultivation, it was enough to alert the tribulation true immortals. As for those below the tribulation true immortal, even if they were at the peak of the zenith heaven golden immortal, they could not help but be affected by this terrifying demonic chi, and their cultivation almost stagnated.